All are doing well so far today. How's everybody doing? Everybody having a great day, great start to your day. Hopefully all are doing well. Pretty nice day so far today. Excited to be able to get this word out. All right, I think we're ready to go on all the devices and all these platforms. I think we're ready. Yeah, looks like we're ready to go. All righty. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osayana kitawaya. Ohio. I see you. Manut. Habari gani. Akwaba. Itesen. Kamsa. Kamsamida. Jambo mimi ni Kofi. Nina furaha kukutana na wewe. Bakwatav. Shalom. Alat Sham Yahava, Barak Alat Sham Yahava, Tidah Yasler, Kwam Yasler, Anak Kofi, Headed of Servants of Christ, Mashalom Hey. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. What's this shirt say? This is actually what I want somebody in our community. It's backwards on TikTok, so I'd have to reverse it real quick. But basically, it's sorry, y'all get to see the back of all this stuff. My bad. Hold on. All the stuff that I'm still building up back here in this property we're at. We got to mirror the video. My bad, y'all. It don't look too bad. I still got to do the door, though. I don't like that door looking the way it does. Anyways, it says we have Kwam, Yashrael, Yahava Elohim, and Adon, or Yahava Elohim is Lord. So, or if you're doing what people do in the Bible, if they're just simply looking at English through the English prism, rise Israel, Jehovah Elohim is Lord, or somebody would say the Lord God is Lord. A little redundant once you know the language, but it is what it is. But thank y'all for being on. Appreciate you. Let's see. Just getting ready to get started. Oh wow! I just realized I didn't bring out any water. Well, I guess I'm gonna be sounding parched a little bit today. It is what it is. But how y'all doing? Thanks for being on with us. We appreciate you as always. We might have a little bit of signal issue, but hopefully you guys should be able to hear and see us all right, especially on the recording on. We're excited to have you on, whether you're joining us on the podcast, later on listening to this recording, whether you're joining us on YouTube, whether you're joining us on TikTok. We appreciate your presence. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit today. We're thankful and grateful to have you guys on with us. And we look forward to be able to get into some teaching and some dynamic stuff that might be able to help us as a diaspora. We praise y'all for Minister Anais for giving us a word that was on her heart yesterday in the Rising. We're thankful to those who were with us yesterday, those who have classes, all that stuff. We will be on Patreon later this evening. We did try to start sending out some stuff for project management for those of us that help in different capacities. So if you're doing any kind of project management, we send out some stuff for you guys to be able to look at so you can participate on some of our boards and stuff like we have, and you can be some of the first people to know what's going on. And you can make sure that you can already have a heads up so we can make sure that we're more diligent and we're better at making sure that we get the word out and stuff that we're doing across the community. A heads up to those, not this weekend, but the following weekend, the last weekend of this month, if you are in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and if you feel like traveling a little bit, if you're like in Boston, that area, stuff like that, we will be doing a couple days worth of meetups in like where the area where like New Jersey and Pennsylvania hit each other. From what's been explained to me, there should be, if you need it, there should be public transportation that can get you there. Or if you need to travel down by car. So we'll be giving you guys more information and making sure that stuff gets out to you ASAP. Okay. So just in case, just to kind of give you all a heads up on that, we're going to try to make that work and see you guys then. And we're appreciative of everybody there. And if you're in the DMV after that, we might try to slide and do a little meetup for you guys in that area as well before we hit the highways and byways a little bit again. So keep us in prayer. But hopefully, if you're in those areas, and if we have your information, we'll give you more information as far as what's going to happen on the meetups and stuff like that. Alrighty, but thank you everybody for being on one more again. We give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we thank you guys so much. I will admit to you, I'm a little tired this rising, but we're going to get into it. And I forgot even my water, so prayerfully we'll be able to get that up and going in a second. I might, if my voice ends up, or if I'm a little parched, I might have to, for a hot second, try to get inside the house or grab something to come back out to y'all. But thank you for being on. We appreciate you so very much, and we're excited to be in front of you again. We give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya. Check her on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not indeed the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We're thankful to everybody for coming on today, and we appreciate you. We're trying to restart here on Kofi_43 since they went ahead and took everything down. We're trying to get restarted, reacclimated to this, so some people might think that we're still gone, especially since we had yesterday off. But hopefully, we have some people that participate. Thank you for finding us at the beginning of this day at this very hour. All right, let's say hello to everybody real quick and let's get into it. So how you doing, Spiritual Prospect? I see you. How you doing, Shalom? I want to get everybody on the podcast, YouTube, TikTok. We appreciate you. I think I saw somebody, Pastor, get right. If I miss your name, charge it to my head, not to my heart, by the way. We appreciate everybody on here. How you doing, Insomniac? How you doing, Sister Kimberly? How you doing, Gigi? Big Roy, Minister Shantae, Hustle Wrestle, Rich Raz and Brightborn. Hey, how you doing? Big Thomas, Jubilee's on here. Appreciate you. Oh, Sister Nadine, how you doing? Sister Latoya, all I am. Rod, I think I said hello to G. If not, no notification. Yep. So it is what it is. But we're going to get it in. How you doing, Sister Nadine? Everybody who's on here. All right. Sister Nadine, how you doing? King, I was thinking about you the other day, Sister Nadine. Hopefully everything's going well. I was praying for you. Meant to reach out, and I did not. So, but hopefully all is going well. You came upon my prayer. You came within my prayers yesterday. How you doing, Mo Desire? How you doing, Sister Stephen, Sister Beverly? Everybody who's on here, we appreciate you so very much. How you doing, user 366-1385278-584? How you doing, Mies? Everybody, it's Brother Vincent. How you doing, Sister Stacy? How you doing, everybody? If I miss your name, once again, charge it to my head, not to my heart. I'm so appreciative that you would spend some time with us today. Alrighty, so we've been in this series for a little bit. This system is sus. I think we've been doing this for a little over a week. Maybe even we're hitting the 10 days worth of it, with a couple of days that I've had off here or there. But I think we're about 10 days into this series. And we are discussing today, who is your source? Who is your source? How you doing? How you doing, Vix? Right? How you doing, Happy Hayes? So the question today is, who is your source? Who is your source? Now, quick question, so we make sure that we're all on the same page and we hit the ground running correctly. We have proper foundation in the process, in the thought process. How you doing, Jared? Quick question for you. Where do, in Hebrew and Avda, in ancient Hebrew and Paleo Hebrew in our culture, where would you get the word source from? What's another word that we would use for source? Technically in English it works this way too, but I want to get us in the context right before we start digging into the source. Right. First things first, when I say who is your source, what is another word we use for source? Thank you, Brother Vincent. Another word for source is father. We would use the character Aleph. Matter of fact, this character right here that we would look at would be father. Now we look at it as a letter A nowadays, but this is actually the character father, right? The phonetic alphabet, or the phonetic, now you call it the phonetic alphabet, but it's the phonetic alphabet because it's Phoenicians who were writing in Hebrew, who at that time would have been who was in the land of Canaan at that point? Israelites, or people who were mixed into Israel using that language, right? Like when you hear people say, we have to learn Aramaic to know the Bible. Aramaic language is what the Aramaic people spoke, but what the Aramaic people used to write was the alphabet, right? So they didn't speak Aramaic. It's a misinterpretation. It's bad interpretation. It's a bad thought process. They were not speaking Aramaic, or they were not writing the Bible in Aramaic because Aramaic people didn't use Aramaic writing, especially at the time when the Bible would have been written, now, or when they're saying the Bible would have been written. Now, somebody says that doesn't make sense to you, by the way. Once again, who is your source? We got to make sure your source is correct because you might not be thinking correctly. What language do you speak right now? What language am I speaking to you right now? Right? Let's just simplify it. Let's not make it so mystical. Let's make it practical for a second. What language are you speaking right now in this moment? Or am I speaking to you right now in this moment? Right? You're listening to me in English. Right? How you doing, Sister Deborah? And thank you for that, Valen. Right? So you're speaking in English. However, what language do you write in, so to speak? You have an offshoot of it, but what language do you write it? You write in Greek, right? And how you doing, Sage? Right? So you speak in English, but you write in Greek. How do I know this? Because you write the alphabet. What is the alphabet? Why do you call it the alphabet? Because the first two characters of that written language that comes from the alphabet, but let's just deal with the first two characters of that Greek written language that Romans liked a lot, right? Is that they wrote in Greek. The first two characters are alphabet, just like in our Hebrew alphabet. The first two characters are aleph, and then we don't have bet on here, but aleph bet, right? So you write in Greek, although you speak kind of sort of Anglo or English, right? See, so you have to be careful with this thing that takes place, and you have to be careful on where you're headed and where you're going with this, and we have to be careful on what we're being taught. How you doing, Minister Murrah? Right? Hopefully you're safe wherever you are in your travels. So we have to first acknowledge and realize and think about clearly where we actually are in this, right? What the conversation actually is in this, right? So our source is everything. So there's a lot of people who speak something, right? Kind of, sort of, but don't realize you might be speaking something that's not written. Did you catch it? Right? There's a lot of people who speak something, but may not speak what's actually written. What is your source? See, the system is sus. You live in a system that tells you that we don't like other people's language, even though English is 40% French nowadays. Very little Anglo is in it. You have more what we would call African terms, Moorish terms, right? You have more Spanish terms, and a lot of those are Moorish terms or even Carthaginian terms. You're using a lot more Latin and Greek, but you call it English, a melting pot of languages. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? And thank you again, Brother Jermaine's the one who hooked this up for us. Praise y'all. I heard that he's getting a little bit of orders. So prayerfully, if y'all want some more information, y'all can reach out to us, let us know. We'll make sure we get you his information. Right. But this is, so you're having a problem because you live in a system that says that the legalese, the laws, the legal things that are written, the things you're supposed to be governed by, they tell you that it's one thing, but it's really not even what's written. We were talking about this last night. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was in Sovereignty 3 or Sovereignty 1, one of them. I can't remember where we were looking up. Consideration. Right, we were looking up consideration, and consideration doesn't mean what it thinks it means. Or let's go with this one, prejudice. We were talking about this in class last night. You hear the term prejudice. What do you guys think when you hear prejudice? And how you doing, Gus Sissy? Thanks for being on, both of you. How you doing? All it takes is a mustard seed, shalom, fam. Right? When you hear the word prejudice, you go into all these other terms, right? What does the word prejudice mean, legally speaking, legal wise? Right? Because if we're being righteousness is to be in right lawful standing, or even sometimes in right legal standing, right? So when you hear the word prejudice, what do you think? See, this is why we got to comprehend what it is. Because you'll go into a courtroom, you'll go into a mindset, you'll start talking to people about prejudice. How you doing, Sister Judith? Praise God for you, right? And the husband, and your husband, hopefully y'all are doing well, right? Praying for you and your family. So you'll go into a place of talking about prejudice, but what does prejudice actually mean? So prejudgment, right? If we were to write it down, we could go into the prejudge part before somebody does something. But if I'm talking, watch this, if I'm talking about civil law especially, what is prejudice? I'm talking about civil law. What does it mean to be prejudiced? See, and right. So when they're prejudging something, or when something is prejudiced contract wise, prejudice is talking about either you're dealing with loss, or you're dealing with bodily harm. See, so your source twist words. You live in a system that twists words. You live in a system that has you try to be to give up your right as a natural man and to be an artificial person, to give up being a natural person and to be an artificial person, right? And they use that to help you to lose things, and even allow you to cause harm, or allow you to let them cause harm unto you. That's prejudice. So if somebody's feeding you food and the food actually hurts your body, by definition, we would say that that's prejudice, by lawful definition. You see, but if you don't have the right source when you're thinking about these things, you'll automatically go, now look, I have no problem with realizing this prejudging, right? Before somebody can even be judged, we already have a preconceived notion, right? But also prejudge, we could also talk about an environment, right? What is the environment that we use to judge you in? Prejudge, to talk about like that we have things that are in place that maybe we should judge you before we do certain things, because we should prejudge. But if I'm going to a courtroom system, or a courtroom, going into a case, I got to realize that prejudice is not what you think it is, because they've manipulated the word. The system is sus, right? They manipulate things. You live in a system that tells you that you should look up to the founding fathers. But question for you, are the founding fathers your fathers? See, I like to ask a lot of why type questions. Why are we doing this? Why are we getting this? Where does this come from? So, question for you, are the founding fathers your fathers? And why do you give them such respect when these people, they made money, they made bank, they made currency, they made business, they made corporation? Because the United States, by definition, by United States code, not by what I'm telling you now, but look it up for yourself, 28 USC 300215A, by United States code, by the law, right? The United States is not a country, it is a corporation. In subsection A, subsection B, it tells you it's a board. That's why you have the president over board members. And then C, right? And by the way, the president, the board members, they work for the people who are invested in the system, right? Just like if you are somebody who invests, if you get some shares of something, once you get shares and you get some stock, right, then you are what's called a stockholder. So the board members always work for the stockholders. Elon Musk might have the most stock in his company, and if he has over 50%, then therefore he technically has an ownership of sorts, because he gets to speak louder than the other people who have shares. But since people are publicly trading his private interest, right, he still has to make sure that the public, those who are publicly trading it, are satisfied, because they have some kind of stock in it, right? So he does not work for you. He works for the people who have the most stock. Therefore, most people who become the presidents or the CEOs of their company, when they start publicly trading things, they will still make sure they have more than 50% of the stock. Why? Because they can work for themselves. Right? Did you catch that? Right? We had this thing backwards. We got this thing twisted. Most of these people, we have to realize these people are trying to work for themselves. This is the source you're going to try and say, give us money, give us reparations, help our children in school. How you doing, Money Green? These are the people that we're looking to as a source. And we must be careful. We must be careful how we're operating. These are the people that we're looking to as a source. Who is the source that you're going to? Who is the source that you're going to? There's a lot of people out here that are looking for any other source that they might be able to find. You got to be careful. I hear a lot of teaching, and I can hear the source is not correct. A lot of this teaching that I hear from people. I hear a lot of people saying a lot of different things, and I can tell, oh, that's not the source. That's not correct. That's not the correct teaching. There's no culture in that. There's no, the nature of that is not the nature of the natural law, and that is not universal law, coming out of universal law. How you doing, Sister Tori? Like, I can see it. I can hear it. I can hear it. I can hear when people are preaching and teaching things, that there are certain things that are coming out that's not us. How you doing, Brother Allen? That's not us. Hopefully you're safe out there. I can tell immediately, because I know the source. See, I know the source material. I know the source. You're invisible? Okay, if that's, I don't know, is that you saying that you can't be seen, or did I say hello? I'm sorry, Sister Rena, if that's what is going on. That's the first time I saw your name pop up. Once again, if I miss your name, charge it to my head, not to my heart. I'm trying to go through multiple platforms and trying to get some stuff, to you. So please forgive me if I miss you. No shade at you. Just sometimes I don't catch everything, right? But you got to ask yourself, what is your source? You got to ask yourself, what is your source? Where are you getting this? Like, it's okay. People read whatever you want. Go to as many people as you want, but you got to make sure that when you're doing so, what is the culture? What is the standard of that? Once again, you said, so the president is God for the corporation of the United States. Well, the president, depending on which president, they could be considered to be a God, but it depends on what you're doing. Depends on how you're looking at it. Who is God? Right? And God we trust. That's an oath. What is an oath? An oath is a promise to a deity. By law, legal definition. If somebody makes an oath, you're making a promise to, right? So if somebody makes a pledge or makes an oath, right? I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, right? What are you saying? You're making an oath to a God. So you have to figure out what God you're talking about. That's why we try to make it very clear. God and Elohim are not always the same thing. Matter of fact, they're not the same thing, because God is talking about Germanic deities that you can make into whatever you want them to be. So that's why God can be on your money, right? God can be these presidents. They could be George Washington. They could be Thomas Jefferson. They could be Abraham Lincoln. They could be Andrew Jackson, et cetera, all the way up to Benjamin Franklin, right? They can, right? But you got to figure out who God is. Even in the Declaration of Independence, 1776, they talk about that they feel like all this stuff comes because they follow the nature of God, or, right, they follow the laws of nature, the nature of God. But you got to ask yourself, who is God? Right? If you don't know what Washington, D.C. means, you might not know that George Washington is Father God, because he's the modern, at least in this system, he's the modern day Osiris. That's why you got the obelisk that sticks up. And Columbia is the goddess that goes with them, right? That's why she's on top of the Capitol building, the Congress building. This is, right? That's why and nothing could be built higher than her. That's why she has wings, just like Isis did. And everybody that's born out of her, that's coming out of Congress, that's supposed to be Heru. And you're supposed to look through their eye, through their prism. You said they are not gods, they are idols. Well, once again, there's a lot of idols that are God. Once again, what God are you talking about? And hello, Stephen, how you doing, right? It depends on what prism you're looking through. See, once again, even a lot of people use the term God. Once again, God is not the same as Elohim. Elohim is not the same thing as Elohim, by the way, right? A God is not the same as a Netcher. A God is not the same as a Regent. A God is not the same as a deity or a deist. They actually work differently within different cultures. But if you're looking through just one prism, or what somebody's told you about a prism, then you're going to have a conversation about God that might not be what those people even believe that God is, or what that God even says about themselves. Right? It's like if somebody gets into yoga, just realize that if you're getting into yoga, especially as far as some of the prayers and stuff that start happening, right, then you must realize that there's an old saying in the culture of the people that do yoga. There are same people that do Hindu, and they tell you that there is no Hinduism without yogaism. There is no yogaism without Hinduism. Now, do your research, even though you have to also admit the African perspective on this, but also that there is no Buddhism, right, without Hinduism, which means that Buddhism, Hinduism, and yogaism are going to be connected. You said theology is contextual. Sure, everything is contextual. Can't have context without facts. Can't have facts without context. Science is contextual. Science is cultural. Religion is cultural. Theology is cultural. Everything is about culture. We don't do one thing without culture, right? There's not one thing we out here doing without culture. And so today in this series, right, we've been talking about this system as such. Today, we're focusing specifically on who is your source. See, the culture that you come out of is going to be your source material. The culture you come out of becomes the habits that you continue to go and hopefully give to your children, or maybe not need to give to your children. How you doing, Keith? You said you finally understand the scripture that says, call, no one Father or source. Yeah, right? Call no one Father except one, right? the context of that is what? Like, don't trip over even your physical father or even your spiritual father or whatever it is that you have. Make sure that you know that everything should start with him, with Yahweh. He should be the end all be all. If you're going to Yahweh or you're going into Yahuwah, I'm not going to argue the dialects today, right? How you doing, Pamela? Or Pamela, excuse me. Right? But these are things that are there. We're not comprehending the culture of this stuff, and so we don't know the source, right? If somebody told you that George Washington never told a lie, he told his father, I cannot tell a lie, I chopped down the cherry tree, you will automatically dismiss George Washington losing his teeth because he didn't know how to eat right. By the age of 30, you will automatically dismiss that he had to take the teeth out of his slaves before he finally had ivory teeth made. You'll totally dismiss that he married his wife because she had just as many slaves as he did and he wanted to double up. You'll totally dismiss that his society. Thank you for the love, appreciating how you doing, Mrs. Self-Care first. You'll totally dismiss that the mindset of these people to where they made money off of your destruction. And you'll keep going to them to try and see if you can learn about yourself through your prison. We're in a dangerous space when our source about us comes through the one who imprisoned you and still imprisons you here and imprisons you here and all over the place, imprisons your mindset, your heart, your money. We're in a bad spot. And how you doing? As the Shinobi Shawnee, thanks for being part of the community, right? You're in a bad spot. How you doing, Sensei? You're in a bad spot when your mindset is coming from your prism about yourself comes through the person who kidnapped you. Yes, Stockholm syndrome. Exactly, right? You're in a bad state. Thank you for the love. You're in a bad spot when the system is such. The system wants you to believe that the people who never cared about you and didn't even consider you, by the way, to be a people. How you doing, Sister Deja? And if Destin's running around and can hear me, how you doing, sir? Right? You must think about this now, that our prism of everything, right, including this, comes through the lens because we don't know our culture, we don't know our language, we don't know what our traditions are, we don't know what our religion is, because religion literally means a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. So we don't even realize they didn't consider you to be a people. A people is a nation. And when they made the Constitution, so we're not just talking about 1776, now fast forward to 1791, right? We still haven't got to the 1800s yet, but fast forward, they're making a point to tell you that a people is a nation by law, right? The word people means nation by law, right? So this is why you're a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, right? Chosen generation, royal priesthood, holy nation, and a peculiar people. That's nation. How you doing, Sister Wendy? Right? So as a nation, they didn't even think you were a nation. And matter of fact, they didn't think that a lot of white people, what you call white people nowadays from social and colonial constructs, they didn't believe that they were people because they didn't even want them to vote. Women couldn't vote, right? That's usually going to be over 50% of the population, right? And then they didn't let a lot of men vote. And then you had to be a rich white land owning person to vote. That's only 6% of the population back then. And even they didn't necessarily all get to vote for George Washington. So when we hear people, you think people is plural of person, but the plural of person is persons, Persons. Persons. And you got to figure out if you're one of the natural persons or if you're an artificial person or one of the artificial persons. See, so even in this system, and this goes back, it's spirituality and law go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. You got to have three in one. You got to have Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay, you got to have executive, legislative, and judicial. Right? Like, this is a prism that many of us do not want to go through, do not want to learn from. How you doing, user 30967? Thanks for being part of the community. And also, by the way, moderators, I appreciate you. I bow down. It is what it is. We've been having people do all types of wild stuff and shady stuff, and it is what it is. So we ask that you guys treat people like human beings, and we do have to kind of tighten the strings, especially too, because we have people of all ages that listen in here. So, if you don't mind, please feel free to treat each other with respect. No matter if you agree with me, disagree, you deserve respect because you're a human being. I don't believe respect should be earned. I believe respect should be given. And even if it's not towards me, if you disrespect, we got to, let you go your way. Amen. How you doing, Queen? So you're in a system if you're not careful. Once again, we're talking about what is your source. This is within the prism, the structure of this series called The System is Sus. What is your source? What is your source for what the word of Yah says? I'll say this one more time real quick, and then I got to focus on the word. We're talking about Kwam Yashadav Yahweh Elohim Adon, or Rise Israel, Yahweh Elohim is Lord. Okay? All right. So the system is sus. The system is sus, right? The system is suspect, right? The system is suspect. And you are somebody who is subject to a suspect system, and you need to know it, not be aware of it. The word know means to be intimate with, to the point of being able to produce fruit. And what's the point of producing fruit again? Producing fruit is producing seed. Fruit is there to attract people to the tree, that the seed might be able to go somewhere else. How you doing? Is it Raz? I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if I am. Forgive me if I messed it up, but thanks for being part of the community. Same to you, Andrew. Appreciate you. So you're part of a system that is subject to what's suspect. It's sus. We say all the time, that's sus, that's sus, that's sus. We throw this term around. The system that you're in is sus, right? You live in a country called the United States that by law is not even a country according to their own code. I'm not talking about kind of, sort of. I'm not talking about, we're doing some conspiracy theory. This is not theoretical. This is law. By law, the United States is a corporation. By United States code, they declare themselves to be a corporation. So you are part of a fake person called the United States, because a corporation is a person, right? If you turn your business into a corporation, what do you turn it into? A person that can take on the legal matters or things that happen. It can take on responsibility that you don't have to take on. Right. It's a straw man. It's a fake person. Even by law, a straw man, even when you're dealing with property law, is known as a front. And thank you for the love. Appreciating. How you doing, Albert? Right. How you doing, Tay? Right. And if I missed somebody's name, please forgive me. I think Hyper Height or something like that was on earlier. Please forgive me. I can't catch everything, but thank y'all for being on. Right. So even by law, a straw man is a front. If you buy a house and put it in the name of your corporation, that's a legal term they would call a front. Not necessarily looked down upon bad, by the way. It's just a front, right? What does that mean? In the front, you see the name of the store, but the reality is that somebody owns whatever the store owns, because they are the owner of the corporation. Hence the definition of capitalism. Let me go ahead and give the definition of capitalism. I'll say it 5 times in a row. I might say it kind of sort of fast, but you should get at least the context of what capitalism is. By the way, a simple definition is he who has capital is king or queen, right? He or she that has capital is king or queen, or ISM on any word makes it a system. So it's a system that is a competition to deal with capital. But let's look at the definition, right? I'll try to say it about 5 times. I'll say it 5 times for you. Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by private corporations and not the state. Actually, I messed it up a little bit, so let me get it right the second time. Right? How you doing, Sister Tasia? Hopefully all is going well. How you doing? Is it we know? Right? Thanks for being part of the community. Let me say it again. Capitalism is a system. Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by owners of private corporations for profit and not the state. By the way, the word state means government. It means country. So your country is simply a board put together. It's an instrument, a negotiable instrument that's used to be able to make sure that the government can use it that the real people who own stuff can use it as a front, as a straw man, to be able to make their real business stuff happen, right? They got a board and everything, according to USC and all that. Let's say it again, though. You ready? Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. The trade and industry is wielded by owners of private corporations for profit and not the state. Are you catching it? So you think this is the definition of capitalism. You can look this up for yourself. Here's the definition. You can Google it right now, because some people don't believe what I'm saying, or you don't like what I'm saying, and you'll try to say I'm false, and you try to research, study for yourself. And if it makes sense to you, if you catch it, then that's when you listen to it. Don't listen to it just because, even if you like what I'm saying, or even if you like my presentation, or even if you like my shirt, or whatever it is, even if you like my hair, or if you dislike, I don't care. Like, look it up. Here we go again. Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by owners of private corporations for profit and not the state. Exactly. Study to show yourself approved. Study to show yourself approved, to be worthy of giving it to Elohim, that you can become a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Can't divide the word of truth without study. Can't study if you're not a student. Can't be a student if you're not disciplined. Can't be disciplined if you're not a disciple. Can't be a disciple if you don't have a teacher or a rabbi or a master. The word master in our culture is not somebody who enslaves you. The word master in our culture is somebody who lives this so well that they can teach you. Okay? Let's hit this one last time. The definition of capitalism is defined as a system. The word capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by owners of private corporations for profit and not by the state. What scripture is that? Study to show yourself approved. Was that? I'm about to say the wrong Timothy. I think it's 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 16. Or is it? See, now I get myself mixed up. Or is it 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 16, 15, 16? Now I'm messing it up. I apologize. It's either 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15 or 16, or 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15 and 16. Right? I'm trying to do second, but 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, that's study to show yourself approved. So I feel like it's 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15 or verse 16, somewhere in there. Right? But study to show yourself approved. Right? Show yourself worthy of being approved. To who? To now go to Elohim, right? That you needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. How you doing, Sister Rachel? And as a reminder, those of you that are in New York, now New York is vast, I know, I get it, but we're gonna be trying in the next, 2 weekends from now, we're gonna have a couple days where we'll be doing some meetups, like where New Jersey meets Pennsylvania. So for those of you that are in the area, we'd love to see you. If you want more information, get in contact with us, or we'll try to put it out. Maybe we'll even have a Zoom meeting or something, and we'll talk about the specifics on the Zoom meeting for everybody, right? Maybe we'll do an extra Zoom meeting, not this weekend, but maybe I guess it'd have to be this weekend. Let's just go ahead and say this Saturday, let's say at about 12:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. If you could join us on Zoom, we'll have a meeting for all of SOC, and we'll make sure we put the information out for those that are in that area. All right. But so you can reach out to us. If you don't know how to reach out, be real quick. If you're on the podcast, if you're on YouTube, you can just look in the description that goes with the video or the podcast to be able to just contact us, text us, email us, whatever the case might be. If you're on TikTok, you can actually look on our main TikTok page, click on our link tree, and you can go to our website. You can go different places to be able to get our information as well. I'll put it up real brief, where you can email us, text us. If you wait all the way to the end, we do a little shout out at the end where we actually put our information out and find ways to be able to contact one another. But if you want to wait to the end, you can go ahead and if you're on TikTok, you can just, if you're not going to be with us to the end, you can just, we do other things outside the live session, not just only meetups, but also, we have classes. We try to make sure that people have their needs taken care of as much as we can. We're working on finishing up, getting our land together, all types of stuff. So if you want to learn about different things that we do around the world, not just on the live sessions are the main thing that we use to make sure that we're all speaking the same language, so to speak, but and becoming the people we're supposed to be. But if you want more information, you can reach out to us here, and we appreciate you. Anything, life coaching, marital coaching. We're finally getting back to the place where the books and everything can come out again. Hopefully the music will follow the books. So there's a lot of different stuff that we do. We have businesses that we try to support and try to make sure people are supporting one another. So feel free to look that stuff up. Okay, I'll leave it up for about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So, and once again, you can always look on our main TikTok page and click on the link tree. It'll give you the YouTube information. It'll give you and the website information. It'll give, and I think, yeah, those are the main two you need to be able to contact us. How you doing, Ryan? So once again, and how you doing is it's Boo. Thanks for being part of the community. So you got to realize that when you're going into this stuff, right? Well, once again, Cassell, if you can, just reach out to us and ask for the information. We'll make sure we get it to you. I'm on. And, we can even make sure we get you connected with the people who are kind of over the region and contact people in your area as well, right? But we have to recognize and realize that we're living in like a really bad thought process, a really bad society. We have a really bad mindset when it comes to this stuff, including like everything we're getting is through somebody's prism, and it's usually through the prism of your enemy, right? The enemy gets to seep inside of you, and now the enemy has literally become the enemy, right? Like so much stuff from the outside has been digested from them that now you're fighting battles on the inside. This includes even food, right? Our food is stuff to where it's so much bad stuff that we just allow in our lives. We've allowed it for so long that now it's taken over our bodies. It's messed up our minds. It's permeated our hearts. You are what you eat. So it's the same thing, even spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, right? Physiologically, whichever elite you want, scientifically. These things are permeating your body, but they're coming from sources that are outside of these outside sources are not designed to heal. Matter of fact, these outside sources are designed specifically to make you addicted. And what we don't realize is when you get something that's genetically modified and is put inside your body, it always comes with something that you call a side effect, right? Whenever you have anything that has been genetically modified, you must recognize it must come with a side effect. Now, when I'm saying side effect, let's make sure we have this down as far as what our culture is. How you doing, Sister Monica? Praise God for you, right? I need you to recognize what we're talking about when we say side effect. This is the context of it. This is the concept of it. Imagine that you take something and it's supposed to be whole, right? Imagine I have something here that's whole, right? Whatever you have, imagine it's whole. But then I modify it. In order to modify it, I got to tinker with it. So maybe I take something in order to modify it, and I go and I put a hole in its side so I can start messing with what it is. Now I give it to you, it's been modified, but the problem is that it still has a hole in the side. So what should be whole and have nothing leaking out or nothing coming out of it now has allowed it to not be whole, and now there's something coming out. Right? How you doing, Sister Patricia? See, what we're dealing in is we're dealing with a lot of people, and thank you for the likes, the shares, all that great stuff. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. Right. And so much stuff that y'all do behind the scenes, all your help that you give. Some of y'all make calls, all that stuff. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you those who are joining us for the first time or first time in a long time. Right. How you doing, Brightborn? I think I said hello earlier, but thank you for the love. Appreciate you. So you're dealing with a lot of stuff that comes with side effects. How you doing, DJ? And a lot of this stuff comes with side effects because it's no longer whole, right? They say, I want the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me, they say God, right? But you live in a system that gives you then partiality. They're not holy. That's what the word, before we get into holiness, in order to be holy, you must be whole. Be ye holy as I am holy. That means be one with me. In this system, are you supposed to be one with this system? You're trying to be, but can you be, if you're not considered to be a people? See, you can tell who people are because people get reparations. See, this is what people miss. You don't even identify as freedmen. You're asking for money without even being a people. Freedmen are a people. But according to their system, if you're black, if you're colored, if you're Negro, if you're African American, you're an artificial person. Why would they give you reparations? But Japanese people get reparations. Slave owners got reparations. Jewish, Ashkenazi Israelites, they get reparations because they're considered to be a people. They're considered to be a nation. We don't even want to come together. We're so busy coming on these platforms to be able to tell each other why the other person is wrong. We're great at telling everybody why the other person's wrong. Matter of fact, if you don't agree with everything that I'm saying, you must be a false prophet. That's what we do, right? Martin Luther King Jr. was nothing because he didn't agree with everything that I said. Martin Luther King Jr. shed his blood. Like, where's your blood? You ain't ready to talk about him till you shed some blood, or you getting shot at, or you got people hitting you in the head, or you can preach your own sermon called "If I Had Sneezed," because he had gotten jacked up in his neck, and if he had sneezed, the doctor said all his stuff would have fell apart. So it was a miracle to him that he didn't sneeze. Like, once you get there, you can start talking about him like that. Now, you can disagree with him for sure. I don't agree with everything that he did, but also I recognize what he was going through, and I realized that he kept getting better and better and better at being there for his people. And once he got to a certain point and he started speaking more, so like he was already kind of sort of speaking it on the March on Washington. Y'all missed it, right? Because we were so busy telling him how bad he is. A lot of people never even listened to his whole speech or listened to what he said leading up to the March on Washington in 63. But when he's killed in 68, he's killed because he's speaking revolution. Right? He's talking about money. He's talking about having your own. He's talking about, I think I brought my people into a burning house. He's talking about us being a nation. When he starts talking about that, that's when he had to be killed. Matter of fact, when Martin and Malcolm were against each other, no problem. All of a sudden, Martin and Malcolm were getting ready to be with each other, to start dealing with each other. Malcolm tried to visit Martin. They locked him up in prison. Malcolm had to talk to Martin's people. And Malcolm had just finished coming back from Africa. Malcolm was getting ready to sue North America, kind of, sort of, but the United States especially. He was getting ready to sue them against the United Nations, or go to the United Nations to sue the United States. And the same time, there was a brother in Africa who was going to go on behalf of the diaspora over there and was going to make sure that he sued on behalf of, sued all these Eurocentric nations that still were over there. They were still dealing with apartheid. And sure enough, both of those men got killed on the same day, 1965, right? And then Martin, who one of the men, Malcolm, was trying to talk to, ends up getting killed when he starts to sounding too much like Malcolm. Right? Like, but once again, if your source material, who is your source? Who is your father, so to speak? What is your father language? What is your source? Lumumba gets killed around the same time too, right? And Kwame Nkrumah, he establishes Ghana. They kick him out and then bring him back. Sankara, he's a little further north. He gets killed by a friend or whatever, and his friend takes over because he's paid off by the CIA and by other Eurocentric nations, right? Like, but if you'll look at these men, all these men were looked down upon. Selassie, he's killed. He's killed not because anybody infiltrates physically, but the CIA and others were able to start telling people about Marxism. Marxism actually killed a royal priesthood that was on the throne that many consider. I don't even know if I 100% agree, but I'm just going to tell you, many consider him to be a link, and his family still exists. I've actually met some people that are part of his family, but they're not supposed to tell you who they are and this and that or whatever, because they could probably be killed. But Selassie was supposed to be a bloodline that goes back at some point to meet up with Sheba, and Sheba goes back to meet up with Solomon. That's why Selassie was so important. That's why he's so important. Even if I'm not Rastafari, I get it, right? I got family that's Rastafari, but I'm not. But I still get it, like why they have such importance on Selassie, because he was supposed to be somebody by blood who took us back to what? Being a people, a nation. And he connects, if you know your history, he connects Kush, right? South Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, even some people that are in the middle, what you call the Middle East. He connects Kush to Kemet, and he connects Kemet and Kush to Yashtal, and he connects Kemet and Kush and Yashtal to West, what you call West Africa, to Igbo, to Shwe, to Ashanti, right? And that connects people over to South America and to the Caribbean. And if you know what's really going on, then you got to start talking about Tisalagi, Omekshi. You have to start talking about what they try to call Arawak, right? You have to start talking about Jamaican, because Jamaicans were a people that existed not just in Jamaica. Matter of fact, the original Jamaicans technically weren't even Jamaican, what you call Jamaican now, but that's the name we took on. But Jamaicans went all the way from what you call Jamaica all the way up into New York, at least. That's why in New York you have places called Jamaica. That's not a random occurrence. And thank you for the love, and how you doing, Sister Gertrude? That's not random. This is not a random occurrence. You from Jamaica, New York? Yeah. This is not random, right? Like, these are people who were connected. And once again, the word says, if my people who are called by my name. What does the word name mean culturally, in our culture, in our language, what does the word name come from? See, we're about to mess with somebody's theology. How you doing, Jordan? Thanks for being part of the community. What does the word name mean in our language? What word would we use for name? Let's just put it out. See, we got this wrong thing going. What would we use for name? We would use what you call Shem or Sham. Shem. Shemitic means to be named, or the word name also means authority, authorized. So if I carry a Shem, I carry an authority, right? That's why they use a term called pastor now, right? For what we would call helet, right? But we use this term called pastor, or you even have shepherds. The pastor is supposed to be a shepherd of a flock, so to speak. Why are they considered to be shepherds of, or why are these pastors? Well, because the pastor, right? We are a shepherd people, or we are we are shepherds. We are nomadic. Even if you know the term, we are Arabic, because the original term for Arabic literally means nomadic. We are people that moved and we had flocks, right? Eventually we got outside of ourselves and started looking down upon the shepherds, right? But at first everybody was a shepherd. No problem with that. It's okay to smell like the sheep, because that's what you take care of. That's what makes you who you are. That's what people want to trade with each other. Now we don't like shepherds, right? Just like we don't like true shepherds today, because we don't like people that smell like the sheep. We don't like people that actually take care of sheep. We don't like people that actually put their hands on it. See, in this system, you want to be the person that has the suit and tie. You don't want to be the person that goes on the rooftop. You want to be the person that wears a nice dress. You don't want to be the person that has to make sure that they're digging into the ground, right? You don't want to be the person that gets your hands dirty and actually grows things. That grows the strawberry, um, that grows the rose bush. What else we got back here? That grows the tomatoes, that grows the grapes. That grow. You don't want to be the person to do those things, because you've lost your sense of getting your hands dirty. How you doing, off grid? You lost your sense of getting your hands dirty, right? You think that getting your hands dirty means that you're not clean. But see, just because you got dirt on you as far as the ground doesn't mean you're not lawful or legal or clean. Hopefully you get the context. How you doing, Sister Juanetta? Hopefully you get the context, right? Because I don't want people arguing that the Most High wants dirty sacrifice and all that. Hopefully you get the context. How you doing, Phoenix? Right? Like, we got into a place to where this looks like it is untenable. No, I let stuff grow. Yeah, this will be cut down when it becomes dangerous to my family. But I let stuff grow because we need to eat off this. You can eat grass. Why would you cut down that which you can eat? And there's different types of grass for different types of things you're going through. Why would you cut that down? Matter of fact, the only reason why you cut down this stuff, and look, I just went for Mother's Day. We just went to a spot we go to all the time, over years, called a topiary garden, and everything was cut up, and it looked like Alice in Wonderland type stuff and all that stuff, and it was beautiful. It was nice, right? But they have a whole spot in the back. You go back there, so you just forage. Because even though I like all that, a lot of people don't know the reason why they tell you to cut your lawn down. That started because everybody needed food. Everybody used to forage. And the Lords had all this stuff that was growing on their property, and people would come and get it, right? And so the Lords didn't like that, so they would manicure the lawn and make it look a certain way, because they could afford to go and get food from other places, or make sure it was food that was locked off from everybody else. So then they started cutting their lawn, and then they started to tell them, and guess what you do? You look up to your source, your father. So these father figures, these sources for them, right? The rich folk, they would cut away what feeds. And since they would cut away what feeds us, right? Since they would cut away what feeds us, when they cut all that stuff away, what happened? Everybody started saying, oh, well, I want to be like them. So you started cutting away what feeds you. And now in your mind, if you see things that grow naturally, it's actually things that are terrible, because you don't look at nature. You don't like things to be natural, natural law. You don't like things to be in their nature. So you're not concerned about not having anything to eat. You'd rather cut it down. You'll rather spray stuff to poison dandelion so that it doesn't show up. Meanwhile, dandelion is one of the best things out there. It's a bitter. That means that it's going to help you with your digestion. It's also going to help you with your blood. It's also going to make sure that you deal with some stuff as far as parasites. But you spray it and you poison it because you feel like it's something that is against you, but it's actually natural. Yes, it tastes bitter. Somebody says it tastes bitter. It tastes bitter. Yeah, it's supposed to. Certain things are supposed to have bitter taste. Bitter means that I'm taking care of something specific, so it should have a taste. It's by nature, the law of nature. It's telling me specifically I'm about to deal with them parasites. Amen, Sister Monica. I hear you. Yeah, buy me of gold and fire, and test me, and all those things. Yeah, that's the fourth assembly, right? Or actually, hold on. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the seventh assembly, right? Seventh assembly. I was thinking Revelation chapter 2, verses 14 and 15, with Balaam doctrine and Nicolaitan doctrine. But I'm with you, my bad. But yeah, I saw you, Revelation 3:18. So, so these are things that we have to realize. What is the prism that you're going through, right? If the prism that you're going through, see what we've done is said, well, somebody's told us that this is what the prism looks like. This is what the prism is. And therefore, if it doesn't match what somebody's told us the prism is, then right, what they say it is, then it can't be true. It can't be so. But we once again ask, who is your source? Grand rising to you, be real. How you doing? We must ask the question. Who is your source? Who is your father? And those that are listening on the podcast, thank you so much. We appreciate you. You can catch the rest of this on YouTube. Today this was recorded. What is today? May 16th. So this was recorded on May 16th. So feel free to go ahead and look at the recording on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being on. We appreciate y'all. Right. So you got to start asking yourself questions for those of us that are still on. You got to start asking these questions. You got to start asking yourself, what is it that's really going on here? What's really going on? Right? What's really happening? What's really going on? If I live in a system, right? The system is sus, it's the series. And today we're asking, what is your source? Who is your source? Who is your father? This for me started. I was watching. This is an older sermon, but it popped up on one of my feeds. A part of it by a pastor named Pastor John Jenkins, pastor of First Baptist Church of Glenarden. Which is located, I can't remember where in Maryland, somewhere in Maryland. Uh, for whatever reason, I can't remember the city. It's like somewhere near Largo Town Center, kind of, sort of, if you know that area in Maryland. But anyways, if you know I'm thinking metro stations for some reason. I feel like it's more so even like, I can't remember those Blue Line road names. I used to go to an assembly right off one of them. But anyways, but Pastor John K. Jenkins, matter of fact, and he was speaking on Layla Ali. If you're not sure, if you don't know who Layla Ali is, um, Layla Ali is Muhammad Ali's daughter, and she was a famous Landover, Maryland. Thank you. She was a famous boxer, and she retired undefeated. I believe she was 24-0, or maybe she was 24-0 going to the fight, but she's undefeated, never lost. People have tried to get her to come out of retirement a few times. She's talked about it. I don't think she's really going to do it, but she's 24-0, kept her father's legacy going, things like that. And so when she was doing this, or she was getting ready to fight somebody, um, and it was the only woman that she ever fought that it was a close fight. So everybody was like, this might be the one that she loses, right? It's the closest thing she had to defeat she ever went through. She's fighting the woman. Um, and as she's fighting this woman, um, and as she's fighting this woman, um, forgive me. Okay. So she's fighting the woman. As she's fighting this woman, what happens is she gets a cut over her eye. I don't remember if it's the left eye or the right eye. I don't know if it really matters for the purpose of what we're talking about. But she's fighting this woman. She gets a cut over her eye. Looks pretty bad, right? Looks like she's not going to be able to make it, right? Looks like she's not really going to be able to make it. She's going to lose for the first time. Everybody's, when you see somebody get cut real bad, or you see somebody's wobbling and stuff, you kind of get up off your, up on your feet, out of your seat. Why? Because you start going, oh, it's only a matter of time. And, we never seen her lose. And is this going to be the time? And all these questions start popping up, right? But she all of a sudden gathers herself. She comes back and she ends up, getting the TKO. She ends up getting the TKO. She wins. Right now, they asked her, what happened? Who is your source? Who is your Abba? Who is your father? Who is your source? They asked her, they said, well, what happened, right, that made you come back? What made you find the strength, or what made you see that you were going to be able to come back the way that you did? Her response was simply, I saw my daddy fight. She saw her Abba, she saw her source, she saw her daddy fight. For her, it was that simple. They said, how did you come back? It looked like there was no way you're going to be able to win that fight. No way you should have been able to see. Where'd you get the courage from? She says, I saw my daddy. Who's her daddy? Arguably, some people would argue, but arguably the greatest boxer of all time, right? Who, even when he lost the ability to speak, could simply hold, right? I remember this. This is what made me want to go to Centennial Park in Atlanta, even years after, the Olympics had been over, right? He could grab a torch and simply, even though he was shaking, he could have the torch and be shaking, and everybody would be standing up. Y'all remember that? Some of y'all might not remember that, right? The Olympics in Atlanta, and he's sitting up there holding it, and he's shaking, but everybody's going crazy because he's about to light the torch. No Viet Cong, forgive my language. If there's babies watching, please feel free to, for educational purposes only. I'm in defiance, instead of in defiance. They were trying to tell him how bad he was and how he was this and that, and he was a traitor to the country. And he said, I don't got no quarrel with them. That's what he said. We had no quarrel. We have no beef. I don't have no quarrel with them because they never called me that. They don't look down upon me. He said, you want me to go and fight for your rights or whatever over there, and you won't fight for my rights over here. They're stripping me of the title. He was undefeated. Matter of fact, when he lost to Joe Frazier, well, one of two things happened. He ran his mouth too much, and he kind of went on Joe Frazier. He was wrong for the way he did that. But also, a second thing, he shouldn't even fought Joe Frazier because he had not even been fighting yet, and he was kind of sort of at the end of his prime at that moment, right? But he was in his prime, undefeated. Nobody could touch him. And they took the title from him, not because he lost it. He always kept the actual original title. He never lost it. The same title that you would have seen on a Jack Dempsey, or you would have seen on Jack Johnson, or you would have seen on Joe Louis, you would have seen on the Rabbit, Floyd Patterson, right? Same title you would have seen on them is the same title that he had. He never lost it. But they wouldn't allow him to fight. Why? Because he stood up for your people. Right? And here's the thing. The people that are your source, they hated Ali. Don't get this twisted. They hated Ali. Yeah, hence the Great White Hope, which is some other things that people had and different people that they wanted to win the championship. And that's why they love Tyson Fury so much, right? And Tyson, to a certain degree, he ain't what they say he is. But nevertheless, right? But they hated Ali. Right? How you doing, Sister Joy? Those in sports, you know what I'm about to say is real, right? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you need to be known, right? Y'all talk about Bill Russell and all this. All people talk about Bill Russell's the greatest. They hated Bill Russell. Bill Russell stood up for you. Bill Russell wasn't like your superstars of today or of your growing up, where people made a point to not say anything, that would ruffle feathers and make sure that everybody could just get along and that people would be okay. Michael Jordan said Republicans buy shoes too. And I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I'm just trying to tell you something's there. LeBron speaks on the Democrat part, but won't talk about what needs to happen about China being against other people. And we just give these people passes when they're doing political things. I'm here to tell you, right? Muhammad Ali went down for the cup. Bill Russell, they hated Bill Russell. They hated Muhammad Ali. They hated Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem can't even get a statue. Did he finally get a statue? How long did it take Kareem to get a statue if he got it? Did he finally get a statue? He said, you guys do terrible things to my people. But a lot of y'all are taught, when you listen to stories about Kareem, you guys go, well, nobody liked Kareem because Kareem was prickly and Kareem was a jerk and Kareem hated the media. But they don't tell you that like people were doing stuff to this man in his house and his family. Why don't they tell you that Bill Russell, when he retired from playing basketball, didn't even show up in Boston for decades? Coached other teams, coached the Sacramento Kings, but would not come back to Boston to do any business. because they used to literally flip over trash cans in his house. The police would come out and be like, we can't do anything about it. And then he said, okay, well, just let the people know who's doing it, that I got something for him. He had to pull out a gun. And then all of a sudden, the police would go to people and be like, hey, you might want to stay away from his house. But you'll hear after they die or when they get older, when they're no longer a threat, oh, we loved Bill Russell. No, you didn't. We love Muhammad Ali. No, you didn't. When Muhammad Ali could speak, you hated him even after he retired. Once he couldn't speak anymore, all of a sudden now everybody loved him. You ever notice that? See, but you got to see who your source is. You got to check the source. You got to check the source material. If somebody's trying to tell you they always loved Ali, it's like, I can look at your family and I know what they love. So everybody says, we love Martin Luther King Jr. That's a lie. You know how I know it's a lie? Not just because he was shot. And by the way, he didn't die because he was shot. He died because he was smothered in the hospital, right? His family actually sued the state that he was shot in, right? And the family won, right? They won a civil suit. So that's how he actually died, right? But you know how I can tell you that they hated Martin Luther King Jr.? Because they did a census in 1967 and in 1968 on him, right? And the census before he died said that he was asking for too much too soon. And what was he asking for? Let us have jobs, let us have reparations, or at least we deserve reparations, but at least give us jobs. We should be able to get land. Oh, and also black and white children to hold hands. They said he was asking for too much on the census. And when he's killed, the night he's killed, I think it's Mike Wallace, the one that people love to be able to say, Mike Wallace, he was fair and unbiased. And that's when the news was the news. Mike Wallace came out and put black leaders on television that night and said, hey, you need to get your people in order. Martin Luther King Jr. is gone. Get your people in order. Get your people in order. But you don't even want us to have leaders. You just killed the one that they looked up to. Right? But somebody says, all this stuff, you got to know who is your source, who is your father. See, Layla Ali said, I know how to fight back because I know what my father did. Don't get it twisted. She grew up with her father. She knows y'all didn't like her father. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. I'm not saying you particular, right? But she knows that there's a lot of people out there who say that Muhammad Ali is this and that. She's like, I knew he was the greatest. I saw him go through the stuff. I saw him go through the stuff. Yeah, tip of the iceberg. Yeah, well, that's why I said that he was saying a lot of different things earlier, right? When we're talking about what people try to say against him and Malcolm and all that. How you doing, Sister Latoya? Right? She's like, I knew who my father was. She said that's why I had the ability when y'all thought I was gonna lose to that girl. I beat her down, and that's where it came from because I saw my father something rise up in him all the time. I saw my father rise up. I saw my father. I saw him fight a country. That's why they said Ali Boumaier. With the rumble in the jungle. That's why they were saying Ali Boumaier. If y'all didn't know, Ali Boumaier means Ali kill him. Ali kill him. When they were talking about him versus George Foreman, because Ali had fought the United States government and won. So they figured if he could fight the government and win, then surely there's nobody. And so George Foreman to them, which is not necessarily fair, even though George Foreman liked being the villain, right? But he couldn't handle it when he got over there because they didn't like George Foreman because to them, anybody that was against Ali was against a people, a diaspora. How you doing, Ann? Anybody who was against Ali was against a people. You see that? Anybody that was against Ali was against a people, and they considered him to be their people because he stood up for what was righteous. Not just because he had black skin, but he stood up for what was righteous. They were looking for the same thing, to stand up against an oppressive system that was the same oppressors. And here comes somebody that threw his fist, you hear what I'm saying? Through his fist is fighting the system, and then started using his mouth to fight a system. He used his position to fight a system. He used his gift. And thanks for being part of the community, Devin, or Devon. I'm not sure if you pronounce it Devon. But thanks for being on. Right? He uses fist to fight. And he uses gift to fight. He uses mouth to fight. He used his life to fight. And he was not perfect. Behind the scenes, there's some stuff that he did that was not cool. He was promiscuous, stepped out on his wives, if I be honest, right? Didn't slow down until he basically had to have somebody take care of him. Had a bunch of children, right? Took care of them, but had a bunch of children, all that. But they were concerned about what? He fought for righteousness. Hey, how you doing, Brother Alice? How you doing, Michelle? Thanks for being part of the community. I don't know if I said that right. Michelle, thanks for being on. So I want you to realize, I want you to see that when you're dealing with these people, they hated Muhammad Ali, but Muhammad Ali was loved by us. Matter of fact, you know a lot of people that love Muhammad Ali? A lot of people who loved him, they were Irish. Because believe it or not, there's Irish people, they fought with you in a lot of these wars and still fight for you in places like Nigeria still to this day. But you're so stuck on black, white that you don't even see who actually is if you want to use this term, I don't like the term, but if you want to use this term, ally. They shed blood. This is why a lot of black people like Fidel Castro. Because Fidel Castro, Cubano blood is spilled all over Africa. So I'm not saying Fidel is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. He's not. But the reason why a lot of people, Malcolm X, even Farrakhan, Muhammad Ali, Nelson Mandela, the reason why these people love him is because that Cubano blood was spilled for the cause. Right? Like y'all, we don't peep game. Hey, see, this is why you got to know your prism, your people. Right? Yeah, I'm here to tell you, Romans 9:6, not all skin folk is kinfolk, or Romans 9:6, not all Israel is Israel, right? You got to live it to be my people. You can't, if you're born my people in the flesh, but you only live in the flesh and have no spiritual value, what's the point, right? But you got to know this, right? Haiti is important to know, but also Haiti is important to know why they killed Haiti off and keep Haiti killed to this day, or they keep Haiti demeaned to this day. They leave Haiti without the reverence that it deserves to this day. Ali did a lot for Louisville, yeah, from where he's originally from, right? Where his mother and father raised him. Right? But you got to realize there's a reason why they did what they did to Haiti. Haiti was the first place to go ahead and say, we're going to establish, as much as they want to tell you this in Western law, it's a fictitious person. See, but this is why I say, like, even because Moors and other people are right to tell you, well, be careful calling yourself black on paper, which is true, depending on what country or state you're contracting stuff with, right? However, when you deal with Haiti, Haiti is the first country that's coming out of, matter of fact, some people would say the only country that comes out of colonialism, even though it was only for a spell because they were put right back into it. But they're the first country to become a country to defeat the colonists, to defeat those kingdoms, and to establish their own. And when they established their own society, guess what they did? They said that to be black was better than to be white. And that was the problem with Haiti. But guess what? We don't even get the context, because some of you go, so you try to reverse it and say that black people are better. See, because black meant, did you fight for our freedom? That's what it meant, right? For example, here's an example. Get the context before people lose their mind and get mad and get upset. Watch this. Haiti had people fight for them called the Hessians. Do you know who the Hessians are? See, this is why you got to know, right? And if you want to know about the Irish stuff I was talking about, look up the Isle of Montserrat. That should settle the Irish Americans. You're used to Irish Americans. You're not used to Irish men. Now, they do have racism over there, right? But you're not used to Irish men. Right, a lot of us are not used to actually Irishmen. Irishmen don't like Irish Americans because Irish Americans don't keep the culture, right? So look up the Isle of Montserrat, Montserrat, when you get a chance, and you'll discover how Irish and black people literally fought together. If you do some research, you'll discover that they even though they were brought over as serfs, right, and not slaves or indentured servants, they still were treated like slaves and then fought with us as slaves. And then they said, okay, well, y'all Irish, you know what, we need y'all to stop fighting with them. Y'all can go ahead and be white people. You'll be poor white people, but you won't have to deal with the stuff that the slaves had to deal with. And a lot of them made a decision. And by the way, can't be mad at them. They made a decision. Hey, do we let our children They made a decision. Do we let our children, do we let our people be treated like slaves? Or do we just become white people? That's what they did. Some of them died with us. Some of them got mixed in. Some of them got put into the same breeding camps, right? So you got to be careful when you do this thing. Everybody white is evil. You got to know what's going on. And some of these people by blood now are married into you anyway. So you got to know what's going on, right? So that's why I speak well of certain people. But once again, do you know what a Hessian is? Do you know who the Hessians are? They're famous in history. The Hessian people, or not the Hessian, but the Hessians. They fought with Haitians. Do you know who the Hessians are? See, because when we say the concept of black, you got to see who's talking about black. So when people say don't be black, who are we talking about? Because when you say there's no nation called black, well, there's a nation that said that black is everything. But you got to see what they meant by black, because black was a status, not just a color. So when somebody tells me, well, you're not black, your hair is closer to black, your shirt is closer to black, but you're not black. No, there are parts of our diaspora that consider black to be important. Kemet, right? Kemetstry, that's where you get chemistry. Chemi means black or dark, because Kemet, the Kemetic people were people who said that they came from the black sand. They came from the black earth, and that's why they were so black. See, so black, but black is a status, because you could still be born of Kemet, but if you don't follow Kemetstry, 42 Confessions of Ma'at, you don't know about Nun, you don't know about Ra, you don't know about Osiris, you don't know about Isis, you don't know about Heru, etc. Like, then you're not really Kemet, you're not really black. See, it's a status just as much as it might be based off of a color, but it's a status. Now watch this. Because you think, oh, skin folk is kinfolk. That's not how it works, right? If you betray somebody, you can't be part of them. Right? But Haiti was a problem because you had these people called Hessians. Hessians were German soldiers that were for hire. They came over with the French to make sure that they were squashing all the rebellion and stuff. And then they said, you know what? We'll fight with the Haitians because we believe in their cause more so than fight with the Blanc Gachon or the Blanc Petit, the big whites or the little whites, if you know about their history, right? So Haiti set up a system. Come on, somebody, you gotta know how this works. Haiti sets up a system, and they say if you fought with us, they say black is powerful. Anybody that's whites, and when they said white, they meant really anybody that was a French, English, or Spanish infiltrator, right, or colonialist. They said if you white, you got to go. But if you fought with us, you were black. So the Hessians were known as black people. The Germans that fought. See, you think of Germany, you only think of Hitler. There's more history, right? There's more to his story than that, right? So the Germans that fought with us, we said y'all black, and they had no problem with it because there was nothing wrong with having that status. Now, people want to be able to use the N-word, but that's something that's not cool as far as status. See, you got to twist it. Now, everybody want to be black, but nobody wants to be a supporter of those who are black. You see what I'm saying? And people hear this stuff the wrong way. You missing what I'm saying. You get to a place where you in your feelings. And look, your feelings are real. I'm not the facts of a feeling guy to where I mean, like, feelings don't matter. Everybody's feelings matter, right? Your feelings are always your feelings are always real. How you feel is how you feel. So I acknowledge your feelings. I'm here to tell you, though, even though I acknowledge your feelings, right? Your feelings might not be based off of reality. Right? So I acknowledge your feelings. Your feelings are real. They should be respected. They should be accepted. Right? But I just need you to know that your feelings, because I do life coaching, I do marital coaching, I deal with feelings all the time. I deal with my own feelings. I deal with my family's feelings. I deal with feelings of people who like me, dislike me, whatever. I get it. Your feelings are real, but they might not be based off of reality. So once we let you feel the way you feel, and this is why we need to have these honest conversations, because once you feel the way you feel, now that we've let you feel a certain way, now let's see if your feelings are based off of reality. See, you might feel like you're supposed to vote, but if voting's not changing anything, let's start asking ourselves if your feelings on voting are based off of reality. You say you're in the kingdom of heaven, but you should vote people in position to be on boards, because once again, the United States is a corporation. Subsection A, it's a board. Subsection B, it's a instrumentalization of subsection C. So you're voting for people to be over a country, but according to United States code, which is United States law, the United States is not even a country. So you might have a feeling about it, and it might be based off of something real because it's nostalgic for you. You see it now? How you doing, Holly? Thanks for being on. You said, who are the stakeholders of the USA? Who has the capital? By law, certain things can't even be passed in Congress unless corporations are be allowed to be able to tell Congress whether or not they agree with it or not. Right? What's the only building that's attached to the White House, at least above ground? The Federal Reserve Building. I mean, it's pretty easy to see, right? A lot of people think you have an investment in America. Maybe you've poured blood, sweat, and tears. Hey, by the way, former military, and thank you all for your service if you served. Somebody who's willing to die for something they believe in is worthy of respect. So I was willing to die for the United States corporation at one point, even though I didn't know it was a corporation, not a country. Put my life on the line. Was willing to shed blood. Saw brothers and sisters who can't walk, talk, or don't live anymore. Have respect for it. Even to this day, if I'm asked to go do a funeral or I'm invited to somebody's funeral, ever still to this day, I'll be in position. And I give you straight up. I ain't giving you no fake stuff. I give you straight to this day. Boom. Right? Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all can't see me any other way. I'll give you straight to this day. Boom. No problem. I'm not giving you none of this. Boom. Because you deserve it. You gave. Anybody that's shedding blood for something they believe in, I'll give respect. Right? Anybody who's ever fought. Now, I never had this happen to me personally, right? But I know enough people that's happened to, right? And you can go watch interviews if you don't believe me of people that you probably respect more, right? Who've been in recon or Navy SEALs or Green Beret, list goes on, CBs, et cetera, et cetera. But go or Rangers, all this stuff. Go listen to these people when they tell you about what it is to have to kill somebody and look them in the eye when you do it. Like, sniping is one thing too, but sniping, you ain't really looking like somebody who had to look somebody in the eye, either stab them or shoot them face to face, or had to think about it. That stuff that still haunts me is thinking about, are these children strapped with a bomb? Like, even thinking about those things, right? You had to think about those things, but I never had to pull a trigger. But some of these people had to pull a trigger, look at somebody in the eye, and they'll tell you one of the things that washes over them, they realize, is that this person believed in what they believed in just as much as I believed in what I believed in. They'll tell you that. Okay, thank you, Sister Nadine. Right? They'll tell you that. And trigger warning, by the way. I apologize. I should have said that first. Trigger warning. I won't go deeper into it. Right? But I was talking with my wife about this the other day. Like, there's movies that we go see and I hang in there and I act like I'm okay. But seeing some of the fighting scenes and the shooting and all that stuff, it looks nice and everything. But especially when it gets real, like it's a little much. So you got people that go through prison. That's that whole Ja Morant thing. Those of you who were in the sports and in the basketball, that's that whole Ja Morant thing. Ja Morant is obviously somebody who never had to pull that thing, who never had to who's never had to empty the clip or the magazine, right? Somebody who's not really used to having to go, even in boot camp, having to have bullets flying over your head, right? You know what I'm saying? Like he's somebody out here who thinks it's cool to have a weapon, do whatever, throw up gang signs and stuff that he's not even part of, whatever, right? But bruh, like there's some people out there that hate when you do that, not because they hate the fact you have a gun. Like look, let me tell y'all something. For all y'all gangsters and some of y'all wanksters and some of y'all want to be gangsters and some of y'all think that lifestyle is cool. I know this because I tried to get into this and people saw greatness in me and they wouldn't let me get into that lifestyle because they were like, yo, like, why would you want, like, they said straight up, they'd be like, bruh, why would you want to be in this when you could do something else that you don't have to deal with jail? They were like, some of us, and I don't believe this would be the case, but this was just their belief system at the time. This is what they were telling me at the time when I was younger. This is what they were telling me at the time when I was younger, right? They were trying to tell me, they say, Kofi, like, we don't have no way out. This is our way out. And we got limited time. We're going to do what we do. You got the ability to reach people for a long time. Why would you go into what we're going into? Why you want to fake this? Or why you want to be something that's not going to, like, you're going to be the one to speak for us down the road. Why would you, if you really love us, like, be better so that you can speak for us? You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't like fake gangsters, especially. They don't like wanksters, especially when they know, like, you have the ability to be something right? Like we might get all the stuff and people and everybody in the neighborhood and all the people, we might get the movies and all this, but at the end of the day, we're gonna be behind bars, bruh. Like when I was in prison, like people look at you crazy, like what you doing here? How you preaching like this and teaching like this and living like this and going through all this stuff? How you doing all this stuff? And yet you sitting here behind here with us. It don't make no sense. You don't belong here. And I was in, off of false accusations, but nevertheless, right? Like they were like, you don't belong here. And then when I got angry or when, and I'm 6'5.5", whatever, can hold my own. And so, I could, if I had to, I could square up or whatever. But they was like, bro, like you don't even got to stand on this square. Like it's okay for you to be a square. It's okay for you to be a civilian. Like you don't have to allow this little introduction, this little part of your life that somebody's trying to make you something you're not. You don't have to be that. Right. But once again, I had to get the right source. They were the source that told me that. See, some of y'all think that it's the squares talking like that. The people that are in the streets are like, bro, what you doing this for? And the Most High is looking at some of y'all like that. How you doing, time quality? Thanks for being part of the community. See, the Most High is looking at some of y'all like that. Like, why are you being that? You ain't got to be that. You ain't got to yell. You don't got to scream. You don't got to call men this. You ain't got to demean women. You don't got to do all the stuff that you're doing. You don't got to try and be like the system. You don't have to be part of somebody that's your oppressor. What you doing out here? Like, you don't have to be that. Like, but in my travels, I don't mind going to the best places in the country, right? The best places in the world. I don't mind going to what y'all call the crappiest places. I need to go to 5th Ward, H-Town. Let's go. I need to go to Ward 7, Ward 8, D.C. Let's go. I need to go to Miami, wherever. Lasciviousness all here, this and that or whatever, wild stuff, this, that. Let's go. Right? We need to go to Philly, to the hood. Let's go. If we're led, I go where I'm led, right? But we got to go. Let's go there because that's my hood. That's my street. You know what I'm saying? Like when you say you for the streets, like, or you in the street still, like that's my street. That's my hood. Is where our people need to become greater. That's where you're gonna see me at. That's the corner I'm on. That's where I'm posted. See, I'm not see to the person who's like watch this. If I was and I don't do it unless it's something where you messing my community up, right? But because let me put it like this: the whole what is it? Rat, you a rat, this and that or whatever. We don't deal with rats. Well, if you selling drugs and killing people in our community, like you worse than a rat, right? If you murdering people so you can poison people in our community, like you worse than a rat. I'm just gonna tell you straight up. I know people want to hear that, but see, that's when you don't want to be righteous. You trying to bring mafioso Italian culture, right, into Israelite of the black Negro whatever culture, right? And we shouldn't bring that in. We're like, bruh, man, you know what? You ratted me out, this and that or whatever. But I get it. Y'all sign up for that and y'all make your little oaths, right? The oath is a promise to God or a promise to a deity. And so y'all believe that y'all shouldn't rat on each other, right? Okay, that's what you do. No problem. But I'm not considered to be a rat because I'm a civilian. See, the reason why you worried about being a rat is because you're not trying to be a civilian. You're not trying to be separate from the system. And since you're not separate from the system, you think that you should come on, somebody not gonna like this, but it is what it is. Since you are not separate from the system, you look to the system to tell you where you are. You look for the system to tell you where you are. And they sus. The system is sus. And today we're talking about specifically who is your source? Who is Abba? Who is your father? Who is your source you go to? If your source says that you're supposed to not tell on the people that kill, I got to ask you, is that sus? Making all these proclamations. By the way, every gang, for those gang members that are real or not, every gang is controlled by the United States government anyways. Y'all know this, right? I'm not making anything up. Every gang is controlled by the United States government anyways. That's the way it works. If your gang is big enough, let your gang get to be about 50 people strong, guess what's going to happen? FBI, CIA, state police, whatever, city police, somebody getting in there, somebody getting paid. A lot of times you can't even make the moves that you make unless you have somebody on the payroll who's a crooked official anyways. So In order for you to be able to move your stuff the way you want to, if you're trying to make the big bucks, you still got to be in league with the government. So it's wild that y'all talk about being rats, but you can't exist without being rats. But if you go through the wrong prism, you see what I'm saying? You'll be saying somebody's negative because they're a rat, but you got to be a rat. You sus. Hate all you want, but you know I'm right about it. You sus. A father will do anything to make sure that his child is provided for, but it's the father's responsibility to take care of the child, which means that the father does anything that will remove himself from his child's life that is dishonorable, then the father is sus. Because how are you going to say, I love my child and will do anything for them? How are you going to say you love your wife? Some of y'all don't even believe in having wives, but how are you going to say you love your wife, but you will do things that mean that if you get caught in them, you'll be away from your family forever? It's sus, isn't it? That don't make sense. Tell me how that makes sense. Show me. You show me how that makes sense. You tell me. You show me. How does that make sense? Where they do that at? You show me how that makes sense. Does it make sense? Right? You have to be a snitch. Like, y'all don't get this. Go back to the times of Greece, go back to the times, especially of Rome, and you will discover that the senators used to be the ones to stir up the mob and would have the mob break down into gangs. They would be in the street with the gangs, telling the gangs who to kill. And then they would bring the gangs to the mobocracy. They would bring it before the officials when they were having official meetings, and they would put pressure on people to where people were begging and pleading to say, let us kill him if somebody didn't give the leader of the Senate, right, or the Senate leader that was up. If the Senate leader wouldn't get what he wanted, he would have people ready to kill. This is what they did with Freeway Rick Ross, the real Rick Ross, not the one that was helping to imprison your people and then wants to tell you why he's the best gangster out there now, right? Not him, right? But the actual Rick Ross that everybody knows about, right? He was somebody that worked directly for the government. He was somebody that was hired and basically was only 1 or 2 steps away as far as when he would get direction. He was getting direction from the White House, right? The first Bush, George H.W. Bush, he was a former CIA agent who became vice president, had the connections to make sure that they were getting stuff together to help Freeway Ricky Ross to be able to spread drugs, not just all over where he was in West Coast, I believe, West Coast, right, Cali? But then also he started doing it all over the states and only did it specifically to black neighborhoods because they were trying to make sure that they made enough money to be able to fuel their war, the Iran-Contra thing. They didn't like the Contra, right? The Contra actually asked the United States for help. The United States was like, we don't really want to help you. We want to help the part that we say should be democracy. Right? Like that's what actually happened like with Fidel Castro. Y'all talk bad about Castro once again, and Castro's not perfect. He has blood on his hands. That's negative blood, right? But hear what I'm saying. Castro came to the United States of America first after everything was won, right? After Guerrero and all that. He comes to Guerrero, excuse me. And he comes to United. Oh, no, I said it right. Guerrero. There we go. And so then Castro comes to the United States and he says, we need help. We don't have any food. The United States says, we didn't want y'all to win. So if y'all die, y'all die. That's when Castro went to the other side. Right? But once again, the system sus. The prism that you look for is the one who didn't want the people to eat and then gets mad when the people that couldn't eat went rogue. You ever seen your child when your child hasn't ate? I don't care how nice your child is. Let your baby not eat. Let your baby miss one meal. Let it be you all eat lunch at 1:00 and it's 1:30 and your baby hasn't ate. What starts happening to your baby when they're hungry? What do they start doing? They start fussing. They start throwing a fit, right? They start kicking and screaming. You imagine a country of people that are hungry and a ruler that's supposed to be over these hungry babies. What do you think is going to happen? Right? Let's stop making it so mystical that it's not practical. Stop making it Republican or Democrat. Make it practical. Let's let it live where it should live. Usually they try to be fun and cover up things with connected a commercial frying of the egg, talking about, oh yeah, this is your brain on drugs. And by the way, Reagan's wife, which by the way, y'all talk bad about what's her face, the Trump's wife or whatever, Ivanka. No, not Ivanka. Ivanka's the daughter, whatever the wife's name is. But Nancy Reagan was somebody that was known for giving oral favors to everybody in Hollywood, and even people when her husband was the president and when he was the governor. Real talk. But she was busy telling y'all children say no to drugs while they was putting drugs in your community. And by the way, that's the way the game works. If you really want to know what's happening to you, you got to look at the opposite of whatever the first lady does. That's what they use the first lady for. They did the same. Oh yeah, they did the same thing with Michelle Obama. If you want to know when it became worse for you to eat natural food, look at what Michelle Obama was doing. Michelle Obama was on Ellen dancing and going on all these places and telling y'all, oh yeah, we want to make sure the children, doing these weird dances. We want to make sure children eat healthy. See, and she's going on Ellen, she's dancing. Everybody's like, yeah, children are eating healthy. Meanwhile, her husband is signing away the right to make sure that you can actually read what's on your labels even further than what you could in the first place. So she's telling you, make sure your children eat healthy, even though they're not even really eating organic food anyway. Meanwhile, though, they're signing stuff to tell your children or tell you that, or to make it hard for you to even know what real food is. This is how they work it. If you want to know whatever the first lady's telling you to pay attention to, you need to pay attention to the opposite. Oh, yes. Jackie Onassis Kennedy, at the time that she was Jackie Kennedy, what was she doing? What was she pushing? Look at the chandelier in here. Look at the White House. Look at the way that it's decorated. Look at this. Okay, you need to start paying attention to some stuff that's happening outside your house. She's saying, pay attention to everything in your house, right? So you can go to the store and buy stuff to be like, you need to figure out what else is going on. Look the opposite direction, right? Eleanor Roosevelt, who seems like she was authentic in her love for black folk, but her husband wasn't on board with it. He did a couple things here or there just to make sure that they could win the war. He was about trying to win the war, trying to get power for America and make sure that the Russians didn't become what they became. He kept telling everybody they were going to become what they became. So that's what his thing was. That's why he even wanted to go into World War II. Jack Kennedy, actually, JFK's father, was a Hitler supporter. And so they were making it hard for him to go over there. Right. So that's why America didn't join up right away. But, you hear, and America also was an isolationist country and some of that stuff too. Right. But when you're seeing this stuff, you got to recognize that but his wife, she was up there, she was out there, she was telling, black people that they need help and this and that or whatever. But then check out what was really happening. Right. That's what they use. That's what in their culture they use their women for. Right. Their women set up stuff so that they can set up the real things. Right. Their goal is to make sure that their women, and that's how you colonize. That's how you gentrify. Gentrification, by the way, is not a bad thing. Right. Like gentrification is not a bad thing. You just don't gentrify and make stuff look like you. Right. But if you want to be a nation, you got to start gentrifying. And gentrifying doesn't mean you do by violent means. No, it's just got to look like you. You don't have stuff that looks like you. When you hear the term black neighborhood, you think the black neighborhood is rundown. You don't think it looks like you. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? You're so into Republican, Democrat, black, white, this and that or whatever. You can't see that there's two sides of the same coin. And even these terms, black, it's a status anyways. But do you want the status that this government, the United States corporation says, or you want it to be a status that's something that's beholden to your people? By the way, it's not a bad thing. If you're an Irish lass should look beautiful according to the standards of Irish. Why is it that you can't be beautiful according to your standard? Why is it that you used to wear your hair a certain way and they said that you shouldn't wear it at work? They used to tell you shouldn't have hips like that, so you started trying to literally shave your hips off. They told you shouldn't have curves like that, so you started trying to wear things to hide your curves. Meanwhile, though, now other people get that stuff added on to them, and we give them money. We pay them money. Look at the Kardashian family. And then when they get a little too much into it, right, when they got too attached to Kanye, all of a sudden she got some of that stuff removed, and now she keeps it moving with the constituency that she wants in the first place. And how you doing, Bahamian Empress? Right? You see what I'm saying? But when you say black neighborhood, see, you can't even talk black neighborhood because question for you: when you say black neighborhood, do you mean you own your own gas station? So you got to see who's your source. What do you mean when you say black? See, you're looking through somebody else's prism so much, you're just hoping you can live somewhere, or you're saying that if we all live around each other. But see, you can have, watch this. If I have, and goes beyond just black and white, by the way. I'm just using this as a comprehension for us. Sorry about that. I don't know why I'm getting all these calls and stuff. Everybody trying to break apart what we doing. I never get these calls. Right? Oh, still can't see me on TikTok. Come on. Sorry, y'all. They were trying really hard. Somebody trying really hard. I'm getting stuff I've never even seen before up here. Yeah, I know. We're getting phone calls and stuff. I don't know why or where from. But anyways, I probably should have put it on airplane mode. I don't know. My Wi-Fi is not that trustworthy today, so I couldn't do that if I wanted. All right. But hear what I'm saying. Where was I going? I'm sorry. Oh, black neighborhood. So your own oil, this and that or whatever. Like, do you have your own gas? Do you have your own grocery store? Do you have your own food? Right? Like if you're gonna say black this, black that, like, do you watch this? Do your wives get to be black wives? Because everybody gets to be a wife in their own culture. Even when you say your own church, do you really have your own church? Because what's the language of your church? What's the mindset of your church? What's the prism of your church? You see what I'm saying? Like what actually makes you a group? What actually makes you a people, a nation? This is what they're afraid of. If you ever decided it was more important to be a nation than it was to have money, because money's not even real. Because it's not backed up by any gold or silver. Money by law, by definition, is not even real. It's currency, sure, but currency just means that you've agreed on how to use it, or that it's usable as a negotiable instrument. That's all you're calling when it's money. Where we're looking at UCC 3-602. Right? Look at what payment is before you get the UCC 3-603 tender of payment. Money has to be backed up by something, y'all. You don't even have money that's backed up by anything. So you're using stuff that's fake, but you try to use it to get something that's real. By the way, or I'm sorry, you're trying to get stuff that's fake and keep stuff that's fake. Trying to keep a fake citizenship. Get real land with money, right? Because I get to go places, and places I get to go to are established land. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for the love, appreciate it, and thank you for the compliment, appreciate it. I'm not catching everything. The sun is kind of like right behind me now, so I can't really see everything on here. But I thank y'all, right? I'm trying to catch as much as I can. But hear what I'm saying? You're talking about black this, black that. You have nothing that's yours. And then when you get something that's yours, here's the problem that you have. Now, Israel should never have this problem because Psalm 122 tells you that you're supposed to be a compact nation. That means you're supposed to come together. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. The poor will be with you always. That means that the poor will always be taken care of, because if I have, the poor should have. Right? The uneducated will be with you always. That means if I'm educated, then the uneducated shall always be educated. Right? The hungry will be with you always. So if I'm able to cook, then, or if I'm able to forage, then there'll always be somebody that can eat. Right? The person who can't pay their bills will always be with you. So if I can pay bills, then you should be able to have your bills paid. This is what happens. But watch this. You're so scattered in your mentality, and then physically scattered, where you're trying to constantly move away from each other, that you don't have the ability, and you don't even think about being holy, whole, one. Aleph, Alav, one. Hakwadash, one. What is the most important commandment? Hear, O Israel, Yahweh Elohim, Alav, at Achava Elohim, Aleph, or even Hakodash, Love, etc. Like, what am I saying? Hero Israel, Yahweh Elohim. Yahweh Elohim is one Lord, and you must love him with all your heart, one, and all your soul, one, and all your mind, one, and all your strength, one. What are we saying there, though? What is the heart there? The word heart in Hebrew is lav, or what now they, or lab, or what they now try to call live, which is what? It is actually your passion. With all your passion. Heart and passion are interchangeable. So love them with all your passion. But what are you passionate about as a people? Love them with all your whole heart, with all your heart, with all your mind or all your soul. The word soul, even in the Greek context, is the word soul in the Greek is psyche, which is Psyche. You would pronounce it psyche. So the psychology is the study of the soul. A psychologist is one who is proficient at the study of the soul. Oh, yes. That's how that works. If you're a psychologist, you were one who is proficient at the study of the soul. So, question for you. See, once again, who is your source? Who do you run to when you need somebody to study your soul? Even in the Greek context, they telling you, hey, your nachavash, for us in the Hebrew, your soul, right? That's why that's why they even say stuff like my soul is anchored in the Lord, right? Because my soul should only be evaluated through his prism. If somebody's trying to evaluate my psychology or my soul, my hakodash, my thought process, the seat of my passions and stuff, if they're only evaluating it through somebody else's prism and not the Most High's prism, and that's supposed to be what we as a culture are uplifting anyway, then now we got a problem. You have all these people telling you about your psychology. What is your soul? What is your psychology? How do you think? What is your wife supposed to look like? Why is it that you're fighting a feminist fight when the reality is that feminist movement is about a white wife against a white husband by colonial construct, or the slave master wife who didn't get everything that was promised to her by a slave master husband? Because while she's talking about we need to get all this stuff we were promised, girl, she was okay with you being belittled. She was okay killing your children. She was okay with her husband sometimes even sleeping with you against your will. But if you listen to it, you say, this is my fight. That's not your fight, right? I know there's the feminist fight. There's the womanist fight. The womanist fight really ain't your fight either. Intersectionality, but then that starts getting weird because now you got to now they start saying all women are women, but when they say all women are women, they don't even mean you. Matter of fact, I heard the other day that lesbians, this is what they start. This is something I just heard. This is not something that came from me. I just heard this the other day that there are now people that are starting to move, and I think this is sus, whether you're talking about our belief or even their belief, right? But they say they're starting to say now, right? Because it used to be if you're not attracted to a trans woman, then you're a bigot, right? Or you're prejudiced. You hate trans women because you're not attracted to trans women. That was something that was out, right? Now, the new thing I'm starting to hear that's picking up steam is that if you are a lesbian but you're not attracted to a trans woman, then you are now a bigot as well. And this is what I try to tell people. You start labeling and naming these things and trying to authorize these things. At some point, we got to have a conversation on what is what. I'll leave it alone. Because, by the way, I don't have a heaven and hell to put nobody in. So I'm not talking about your salvation right now. I'm not talking about you being saved. I'm not saying you can't get yourself together in the Lord. I'm not saying that you are dying and all that stuff. I don't speak any ill will and power. I'm trying to tell you, be careful about these names and his mindset and his thought process. Because what is the boundary? What is the law? Laws don't give rights. Law protect rights. What is the law concerning this? See, it's easy to get people to come against each other because you were never for each other. You were just for what the other person was for, or you were against what the other person was against. Real quick, we have this on the YouTube channel, so you can look this up, called the 3 C's, or called constituents, comrades, and confidants, right? A constituent, a confidant, rather, is somebody that's for you. A constituent is for what you are for, and a comrade is against what you were against. I'll say it a couple more times so you can catch it. A confidant is for you. A constituent is for what you are for, and a comrade is against what you are against. right? And how you doing? They love sign. Thanks for being part of the community. I'll say it one more again, right? A confidant is for you. A constituent is for what you are for, and a comrade is against what you are against. So a confidant is for you. Whether you like me or not, I'm gonna tell you the truth. If you need me, I'm always there for you. Even if you do wrong, you're still gonna eat. Thank you for the love, appreciate it, right? Like that's confidant. Even I can't be everybody's confidant, by the way, because I'm one human being. But when I'm with you, or when I'm talking to you, or when I'm teaching, or when I'm on the phone with you, or when I do a meetup or whatever, right? I can give you confidant energy. I'm here for you, right? I might only have 5 minutes, but after that 5 minutes, you're gonna feel better about yourself. Why? Because I'm here for you. I'm empathizing with you. I've got a word about you, right? And when I sow, I know whatever I sow, I'm gonna reap. So by loving you, I end up loving myself anyways, right? That's confidant energy, right? But then you have constituency. Now, people who are constituents, you miss this. People don't realize constituents are not for you, but they are for what you are for. So a lot of you have constituents that you make confidants. That's why you got 7,000 friends on Facebook, but you only talk to 5 of them in person from time to time, right? That's what y'all be doing, right? You trying to give confidant energy to all these constituents who are for what you're for. So somebody likes what you like. Somebody shows up to what you show up. They'll support you in everything, by the way, and you'll support them. But there's going to come a time to where if they can get somewhere faster, or so they think, or they were never really truly were trying to establish what the kingdom in you is trying to establish, they will go ahead and roll out. Not because they hate you, not because they're bad, but they're constituents. See, this constituency, when you have constituency, then you start confusing confidants for constituents. Or if I can say it like this, you'll start confusing confidant energy for allyship. You hear what I'm saying? You'll start, and how you doing, Minister Tamara? You'll start confusing the confidant for the ally, or the confidant for the constituent. And that's what y'all did. But see, and look, allies, constituents can be great for each other. You just need to know what a constituent is. Oh, thank you for the intername here. I appreciate it, right? You got to know what a constituent is, though, right? You got to know what an ally is. See, if you have an ally, allies sign what's called treaties. And the treaty will say stuff like, okay, I'll help your country, I'll help your people, but only up to a certain extent, because at the end of the day, we're different people. The word people means nations. So even though we might come together as nations, as allies, if they attack you in this way, I'm still not going to go but so far. So when people try to creep in little things like that, let me just go ahead and get rid of this, because some people's minds go here because we're so anti each other. I don't care if you're in an interracial relationship. I'm more concerned about whether or not you guys share the same culture. Because whatever culture you share is going to show whether or not you're going to be a confidant or a constituent or even a comrade. I don't care, because interracial, first of all, the word race, we've already discussed this before in the past. Race means competition, and the only reason you think about race is because you don't know about Darwinism and being Linnaean, or of Linnaean doctrine. And if you look up these terms, what I'm saying is that basically animals were first considered to be the first races, because they said that races, animals compete against each other. Then they said you came from animals, and that's why they started giving you races that you compete against each other. And then Darwin made it a point to where the name of his book is literally The Origin of Species by means of natural selection, or the struggle for survival of favored races. That's the name of his book. So I don't get into races, because to deal with race means you need to deal with racism. And I'm not a race. I'm not an animal. I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm gonna be the greatest Kofi Ofori, right? 6'5.5", with this hair, with this look, whatever it is, whatever style I'm being, whether it's like this, whether it's like this, whatever. I'm gonna be the greatest one to ever exist, because I can make sure that this Kofi is the greatest Kofi that ever is. I'm gonna get every last thing out of this Kofi that I can. Am I gonna be perfect? No, but I'm gonna get everything out of this Kofi. I'm not in competition with any man, woman, child. I'm not tripping off anything. Call me the simp, that's fine, right? Because a lot of y'all got pimp energy and want to call people like me say that I got simp energy. But guess what? All these people out here trying to pimp people, guess what? You can call me a simp if you want, but my marriage works. All right. I don't need to be in competition with nobody. Like, my marriage works. So you can say whatever you want about me. My stuff works. Okay. Because it's not even my stuff. It's the Most High's. as my culture. We have certain things that we don't let go of. Even if you want to let go of this and become somebody else or listen to somebody else who keeps trying to mentally enslave you, I'm about freedom. So I'm going to live freely. And you can call me whatever you want. But people that live in freedom, the person who's in chains, guess what? Crabs pull each other down. Crabs that are free, they don't look for other crabs to pull down. So I'm okay, right? And you got to be okay with this. You got to be okay with who you are. You hear what I'm saying? You got to be okay with who you are. But once again, question, who are you? Who are your people? See, even with your birth certificate, you've been taught that it's more important about where you come or where you are, right? Where you're from, but you don't know who you're from. Your hips can sway with the greatest of elegance, right? You can be able to lift weights with the greatest of ease. But I don't care where you are if you don't know who you are. And the government knows that. That's why you signed a birth certificate. You gave up your right to know who you are because you were more concerned about where you are. But see, you got to reverse. This is why you think gentrification is evil, because you don't gentrify. Wherever you are is supposed to look like you. If you're in the natural law, we should see some nature around. You hear what I'm saying? So why is it that whenever I come around you, there's no nature? Why is it that we as a people who need sunlight, melanated, just like plants need chlorophyll, and the greener a plant is, the more sun it needs. Well, here you are, more melanated. Not saying if you're not more melanated, you're not worthy of anything. I'm just talking. I'm just stay in context, right? Here you are, some of you more melanated than others, getting no sun. Talking about, well, I've got thyroid issues. I've got this. I've got that. Don't stand in grass talking about I'm dealing with all these poisons in me and this and that or whatever. Don't like something that simple. Get in the sun. Get some nutrients. Talking about I'm dehydrated, I can't even have. Yeah, you can't have water in your body. Talking about I'm allergic to water. When I drink water, my feet swell. You know why your feet swell? Because your cells can't hold water. You're not in the nature. You think that salt water is poisoning you because there's too much salt. You don't realize that you need to put a pinch of salt in the water that you're drinking right now. You hear what I'm saying? Talking about, oh, we melanated black people can get sunburned too. It's really hard. If your body is healthy, it's really hard to get sunburned. If you're really healthy, people talking about I'm allergic to the sun, I can't be in because you can't digest. Your problem is digestion, not sun, not water. Isn't your body like how you allergic to water and your body is made out of water, y'all? They tell you your body is, isn't that sus? Who is your source for this stuff? Like, what is the source material? They tell you your body is 70 to 80% water, but then tell you people could be allergic to water. If you can't digest water, then we need to figure out your digestion issues. Maybe you should fast for a little bit first. Once you finish fasting, right? However long you're going to do it, even if it's intermittent fasting. Once you finish some fasting, all right, now let's start dealing with what you eat. And by the way, like a lot of you who are dealing with diabetes, a lot of you dealing with thyroid issues, not only should you get some sun, get in the grass, have less stress, right? Make sure that you have joy, things of that nature, because joy is not an emotion. Joy is a choice. You can choose to have joy. Right? Whether you're happy or sad, you can be crying tears and they can still be tears of joy. You can be crying tears and they can be tears of sadness, right? But you can still be sad, by the way, and have joy. You can be sad to lose a loved one, but still have the joy knowing of what your loved one meant to you, right? Joy is not an emotion. Joy is a choice. Like love is not an emotion. Love is a choice. Love is an action. You ever heard this before? I will bless the Lord at all times. That's not an emotion. I will. That's a choice. I will it. As a result of my will, no matter what happens in my life, the Lord shall be blessed. That's what that's saying. I will. I've decided. Right? What do you will? I will do this. Y'all say it all the time. Y'all make New Year's resolutions. How many New Year's resolutions are already out the window? You ain't even made it to June yet. You haven't made it to July, the halfway point. How many decrees and declares have you made and nothing's working? Because that gets to a place of will. See, the system is sus. The prism that you're in, it doesn't even want you to use words correctly. I will. I will make sure I teach the truth. That means that no matter what they try to do to shut me down, I got to be in position. I will. I will it. I will have a great marriage. That means that I've made a choice that I will be faithful, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I made a choice that I will be affectionate. I made a choice that I will know my wife. I made a choice that I'll be aware of her needs. I will make sure that she gets her needs and her wants. I will make sure that she feels secure. I will make sure that she's addressed correctly. I will make sure that she's sanctified. That's a command. I will it. I will that my wife has no other responsibility other than being a woman, a wife, and a mother. Should she so choose, which she has, to have her own business and do some stuff too, let her go do it. But her responsibility is not to do anything other than be a wife. Now you got to figure out what a wife is according to your culture, because a lot of y'all don't know, right? But she has nothing else on her list than to be an excellent woman, an excellent mother, and an excellent wife. And if you want to, of course, that means she's got to be under the Most High. And guess what? That means that she's not even supposed to be in submission. She's supposed to be in submission. Some of y'all are new, so I need to explain this concept to you, because a lot of men and even a lot of women think that the wife is supposed to be in submission and not submission. What's the difference? Submission means you're submitted to the man, but that's not accurate. You're supposed to be submitted to the mission. It's not called submission, it's called submission. If you have a man or a husband or a fake husband, right, or somebody trying to be one, or a little boy in men's clothing or a wolf in sheep's clothing, whatever, we can give a list of adjectives. At the end of the day, if you are trying to submit to a man, you will never get it. And that's what a lot of y'all do. You submit to a man. What's his credit score look like? Is he cute? Does he have good hair? Is he taller than me? Right? You look for things like that. Right? How many abs does he have? Does he work out at the gym? What kind of car does he drive? Where house does he live in? By the way, some of this stuff is important, but I'm saying that's the first desire. But many sisters don't ask men mission. Where are you headed? Where are you going? See, because as a wife, I multiply whatever you do. And so if I don't have no mission to be in, then I can't multiply. But see, watch this. If a wife gets a mission, then that means even when the husband starts acting up, as long as she stays connected to the mission, everything gonna be all right. And how you doing, Rissa? You hear what I'm saying? Everything gonna be all right. See, so I have a mission that my wife saw, and she was already qualified to be a wife, because in our culture, you're supposed to be qualified. See, the prism you're going through, who is your source? The prism that a lot of people go through is your eccentric value. You think that once you walk down the aisle, then you become a wife. But the Bible declares, even your Bible, by the way, in your Bible, right? Read your Bible, it'll bless you. If this is your canonical viewpoint, then you need to tell me in here, where do you see anybody walking down the aisle in a white dress and somebody sitting up in the front in a black suit and tie, or whatever it is, whatever you, not suit, what do you call it? What do we, tuxedo, right? And you're in the tuxedo. And I mean, we had an extravagant stuff, but my wife and I talked about, we had a really nice wedding. I mean, a huge ballroom, the chandelier. She was walking down the canon in D, cello playing, piano playing. You know, if you don't know what song that is, like that song. Right, like that song. Like, it was beautiful. We look back at that now and we said, man, if we had done this correct, we would have just got a house. If we had just done this correct, that was nice and everything, but we don't even really talked about like 5 people that were at the wedding like that. Anyways, out of all these people that came and all this event and all this money, and by the way, I had to spend money. She was spending money over here. I was spending money over there. We were going to do it at the bottom of a church, do it ourselves. And then we found a place where they just do everything for us for about the same price. And then so we took that money and actually donated it to the church that we were going to use. And they allowed us to put some events there and stuff like that and all that. I mean, we put a whole bunch of stuff in, and we look back now, man, we could have had like 2-3 properties. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're supposed to do. In our culture, the husband is supposed to go prepare a place for the wife. So you think of this as a funeral, because we're part of a prison that deals with death first. So you hear a scripture, John chapter 14, and you hear, beloved, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in the Father, also believe in me. In my Father's house there were many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. I go to prepare a place for thee, that where I am, there you shall be also. And it sounds so nice and the family's crying, but it doesn't make sense in the culture. It doesn't make sense culturally, because you know what's really happening? You know what's really happening when it says there? Yes, Christ is getting ready to die, but this is what he's talking about. Who is Christ's bride? Who is the bride of Christ? Help me out. Who is the bride of Christ? Help me out now. Who is the bride of Christ? Come on, somebody. Yasharal, anybody grafted in, if you're in the kingdom, if you're kingdom mindset, you are in the body of Christ, right? Yasharal, anybody grafted in, right? So now what happens? In our culture, the husband, right? We're supposed to be taught on what a husband and wife is from birth, from when we are born. And we get to a certain point to where we finally are acknowledged in our culture as a husband and wife. The wife still stays with her father, her physical father, who is her spiritual husband, right? And so she is in the house. Now she can have her own business. She can do whatever, right? She's not a slave, right? But she is protected because she's supposed to be secured and get affection. And whoever her husband's going to be at some point is going to flip the script. That's why even when they walk people down the aisle, that's a holdover from like what happens. Like if somebody walks down the aisle, if somebody does a marriage with me and they want to actually do the whole walking down the aisle thing still, right? What they do is you walk down the aisle. The father has the bride on his arm. Like when my daughter gets married, and she's on my arm, I'm not going to do the ceremony because I have to transfer authority. Because right now spiritually, I'm her husband, right? But physically, I'm her father. What's going to happen is somebody's going to say, who gives this woman a way to be wed? I'm going to say, I do. I'm going to take her hand and I'm going to put it in the hand of her spiritual father now. I go away from being right. I'm putting her spiritual father's hand, and I'm gonna back up, and I'm gonna take my seat, and everybody's gonna sit down with me. Says that's an affidavit. They're witnessing the authority going from her being protected by me into now. Hey, now you're her spiritual father. You're her physical husband. I could never be her physical husband. I could never be physically one with her, but I could be spiritually somebody who's imparting things to her. Now that you're getting ready to be with her, hey, physically you're her husband, but spiritually, I'm not gonna be around. So spiritually, you're her father, right? So what you're already supposed to be before you say I do, I'm acknowledging in front of everybody that I'm saying that you are a spiritual father and you are a physical husband. You're supposed to be trained. So when you're in a husband, the first thing that you get, well, really before you're a husband, when you're a man, right? You're trained to be a man first, then a husband, then a father, and then you're given your inheritance, and you're supposed to go out and continue the family business. And while you're in your work, right? Before Adam had a woman, before he had a wife, he had to work. See, it's serious, right? Before he had a woman, before he had a wife, he had to work, right? And this is applies to me. This is how I found mine. Really, technically, she found me. She was looking at me. I was looking at her. I thought she actually had a ring, but she had a ring on the other hand. So it is what it is. But anyways, without going into that long, deep dissertation about that, right? I'm in my work. I'm getting ready to take care of kingdom business, and my wife sees me, or a wife sees me. She's not my wife at the time. She listened to a conversation I'm having on the phone. She hears that I'm about to go and bless somebody who's like, going through some stuff in the psych ward and everything. She likes some of the stuff that's doing. I give her a card. She gives me a card. I tell her about what it is, all these things or whatever. Right in my work, I had, yeah, exactly. I had a mission. And I told her what the mission was going to look. I even told her, look, I don't know what this mission I have is. I know that we're going to reach a lot of people. I know that we're going to travel. I know that I'm supposed to do this. I know it's going to look different than anything I've ever seen. It's going to be biblically based. I'm going to be a pastor. Matter of fact, I am a pastor right now. This is what I do, blah, blah, blah. I'm just letting you know all this stuff from the jump. And I'm giving her my resume. She gets to read the resume and say, I like the mission or I don't. If she likes the mission enough, she decides to be in submission, not submansion, but submission. And then she goes to her father's house and she prepares herself for that. That's where you get the 10 virgin story from, by the way. The 10 virgins, 5 had oil in their lamp, 5 didn't. She was supposed to go to her father's house, right? And then the groom comes back. There's 2 knocking things. One is called the knocking ceremony. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. That's a marriage ritual. You would knock on the door, right, with your father or somebody else, and you would knock on the wife's door, hoping that the father of the wife would allow her to become your wife. And but if you knock on the door, he opens the door. If he opens the door, then you pour him a drink. If you pour him a drink, the father of the bride then gets to go ahead and say, okay, now we can come to terms. Now you can do a dowry. Might be you work 7 years, might be you work 14 years, right? Y'all know that story, right? But you might be you have to give this many sheep or goat or whatever. But she's valuable, and you're doing that to show not only how much value she has, but you're also doing that to show that I have the ability to make sure that I take care of your daughter, who is your spiritual wife, right? And to show that I have things to help on the mission, and that whatever her mission is, because I also have to be in submission. I know y'all don't like that, but before you read Ephesians 5:22, wives submit to your own husbands as unto the Lord, don't forget the verse before it. Ephesians 5:21 says, submit yourselves one to another as unto the Lord. That's what it says. I know we like to skip over that. And I know we like to say the Bible never says. I don't know where this started, but the brothers be out here talking about, and sisters have started following suit. Well, the Bible declares that the husband and the wife, they never or I'm sorry, oh yeah, that a husband, it never says in the Bible, husbands or a wife's supposed to love her husband. She's just supposed to submit. Nonsense. They try to do that to you because they want women to be like like just to be subjects, rather than be partners, rather than be loved, rather than get affection. They want them to just be down. But no, Titus chapter 2 tells you that the older women should teach the younger wives how to love their husbands, right? But people don't want to be whole or holy. They only want to use parts and pieces of stuff. See, once again, who is your source? Who is your father out here? Yashua had to tell some of the religious leaders, he said, your father is of the devil. Your father's the devil. Your source. It doesn't mean the devil created you. It means that that's your source. That's who you go to. That's your daddy. Right? But you keep on moving in this, right? So the woman, she's out there, she's in her father's house preparing herself for her husband. Meanwhile, the husband has gone back to his father's property, and he builds what's called a mansion. In my father's house, there are many mansions. What does that mean? A mansion is not a house. A mansion is an add-on to a house. In my father's house, there are many add-ons. He's saying that so in our culture, the husband goes back to his wife, to the father's house, and he starts building the house. This is why your Bible declares that no man knows the day nor the hour that the Most High is coming back, because the father is the one who tells the son when the add-on to the house is complete, because the father already knows what it is to be a husband. You get the context? See, contextual facts. You've been speaking something or having somebody preach something or speak something to you. You don't even know what's going on. So the father is sitting there watching the son, right? Like I'm gonna be watching with my son when he gets of age, and I'm gonna say, you know what? Your wife gonna need to cook. Make sure that stove is on point. You know what? She gonna need an island in that kitchen. You know what? I like what you're doing there, but I want a bunch of grandchildren. Now, I know y'all not gonna be living with me the whole time, but whenever y'all come by, I need my grandchildren to have space. So make their room bigger. Go outside, give them a playground. Go do like the father's watching over his son, because he has experience. He knows what it is to be experienced, to have the experience. So he's using experiential data or data, depending on how you pronounce it. And he's saying, this is what we're going to do. Finally, the father knows what's going on. He says, okay, son, wrap it up. Go get your bride. He goes back to get the bride, who should have oil in her lamp at all times ready to go for when her husband's going to show up. That also means she has to make sure sometimes she might have to put new oil in there, because you can't just let the oil sit. In other words, she got to always be ready, because her husband's always getting himself ready. So as he's getting himself ready and getting things ready for her, she's getting herself ready for what she's getting ready to walk into, that's been designed specifically for her. And then he comes back and he knocks on the door the second time. This time, come on, baby, let's go. And in order to leave, she has to turn on her light, just like you were the light of the world, because you are the body of Christ, or you are the wife of Christ, right? You got to turn on your light. You are the light of the world. She got to turn her light on. And once we see that it's lit up, we know that she's been ready. It's a sign that no matter what's been going on in her mind, she's always been prepared. It's something that she has in the physical to remind her what's going on in the spiritual, right? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth in the physical. Let your light be turned on the same way it is done in heaven. You've been preparing a place for me. See, so beloved, and by the way, the word beloved is Davad, or what you call David. The word David or Davad means beloved. So whenever you see beloved, let not your heart be troubled. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of Elohim. All these different things we talk about beloved. Beloved is always talking about David. David is talking about the throne that's going to be Judah, the throne of Judah that's going to lead to the Messiah. Come on. So therefore, whenever he says beloved, he's talking about David. He's talking about Judah. That's why Romans chapter 11 tells you got to be grafted in. You can't just do whatever you want. Remember I was talking about earlier, the word Shem, Shemitic. Shem is talking about name, authority. That's why they use the word pastor. I didn't complete the thought, but praise Yah, he brought us back to it. Thank you, Holy Spirit, because the word Shem or authority is literally saying that therefore I'm authorized to do something. So if you're a pastor, you have to be Shemitic in order to be a pastor technically. Biblically speaking, culturally speaking. Why? Because the pastor was Shemitic, a Shemitic shepherd. So the Shemitic shepherd was the people who were nomadic and walked around. He was the one that led the sheep to green pastures. Therefore, Shemitic people looked at things a different way than everybody else did. Therefore, their pastures were green because of a different thing. But a lot of people talking about Psalm 23. You don't even know what is Shem or what is authorized or what is named. You're just out here quoting stuff without knowing what it means. But you ready to preach a word. See what I'm saying? Right? Who's your source? I said this last night, I think. Right? A lot of people keep talking about the word. They read the word. They read the word. They read the word. They read the word. You can read the word and not know what it's saying. Many of you read the Constitution and never once realized that once you get to the 14th Amendment on, everything is a lowercase c when it comes to the word citizen. That means that they literally told you that you don't have citizenship anymore. You can read a word all day. You can read a book all day and have no clue what it's talking about. And how precipitous is the torrential torrential is the downpour that affects our people to where we should be on high, but we keep slipping down the slopes and saying that because it's a beautiful waterfall, we keep forgetting that we're half a mile down now and we're not where we should be, up at the highest heights. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to become one with this. Who is your prism? Who you are is more important than where you are. Who you are is more important than where you are. If we got this, we would never have a problem with business again. That's a problem with business. Why don't we sow into each other's business? Because you're more concerned about where you are. I won't support Nollywood. I won't support Master P. I won't support, our stuff because, the white stuff just better. Well, if the white man's ice tastes better, then help your people to make sure that you got a freezer that's on point, and then your ice will be the same. But ice is ice at the end of the day. Who cares if it came out of a store busted? Now, I don't eat like this anymore, but I remember I went to this great congregation, a huge congregation that was allowed to preach there some years ago. And one of the last churches, big church experiences I really was a part of. And the guy, the pastor, forgive me, I can't remember his name right now. Prayerfully, he's doing well, great man. He said that whenever he knew, at the time we were in the DMV, as far as like our only location that we had at the time, or the only group of people that we really were over. And so he would say, whenever I come up your way, he was like, I look for bags that have grease in them. That was a way of saying, like, in DC, he was like, y'all be on all this healthy kick and this and that. I'm not saying this is righteous, just get the context. He's saying, but I'm not looking for all the stuff that's nice, and I'm not looking for the kale. He's like, I want some grease. He said, when I see a brown bag with grease in the bottom, I stop the person. I say, where'd you get that from? Because down where he was in Florida, right? Where he was at in Warrington, that's where they were doing. That's what they do down there. He was like, that's the level. That's what we. So he's like, when I see that grease in the bag, he's like, I want to know where that's from. And he said, that's where we go. That's where we go to eat, right? I'm not saying eat like that physically, but hear what I'm saying. You got to start thinking about things as far as what are you looking for that's your culture, your standard, right? What's your grease in the bag, so to speak? What is the context of wife for you? See, watch this. People are real when they tell you marriage is a contract to the state. But here's something they don't tell you. You can fill out your own contract for marriage. And you should make sure you're speaking the same thing verbally that you're going to put on paper. Why? Because a verbal contract, right, has meaning and has authority just like a written contract. So you see what I'm saying? So yeah, you're right. It is a contract, but you don't have to contract to the state, contract to each other. Write out a private contract one to another on what your marriage is going to be. Have people who come to your wedding, however you're going to do it, or your wedding ceremony, whatever you're going to do, have them fill out an affidavit saying that we saw these two, we heard what the person who's over the authority over it say this, and also make sure that they sign something that says, excuse me, I'm missing something. Oh, and make sure that part of the affidavit that they've written something, that they signed something saying we read the contract that they're going to have one with another, so that we know, at least read some of it, so that we know what we're saying that we witnessed. So if any of these people start acting out of pocket, right, you bring the contract before the judge if necessary, and the judge at that point is just a trustee. The trustor is the person or the persons who wrote it out, right? You're trying to see who's a beneficiary, if somebody messed up or this and that, or even if neither one messed up or whatever. I don't know. If neither one messed up, hopefully you stay married. But whatever you put in contract, you do stuff to be able to make sure that you can take care of your stuff, children, dogs, whatever. People have all this stuff that they bring in, house, car, clothes. And right, and what responsibility each person has to still take, because you still might have children, this and that, whatever. If you have children, you got that in there, all that, right? And then you have the trustee. The judge is just a trustee. They just look over whatever's in the contract. They got to be governed by the contract. That's it. Totally legal, totally lawful. But people tell you don't get married. By the way, if you have sex, you know you got married by law, right? If you didn't know that, let me tell you, sex is marriage, and marriage is sex. Sex is marriage, and marriage is sex. There's a secret out here. Sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. If you get married to somebody and y'all don't have sex, the marriage gets annulled, because it's known that if you can't, your marriage doesn't count unless it's consummated. And because you're contracted already to the state, right? You're awarded the state in a sense, because why? Because you have a birth certificate and social security card. Guess what? That means that because of that, that's when you have your children, the state steps in and goes ahead and they give you some of the money, and then they take a chunk of the money for themselves and they put it in the judge's retirement fund. When you go to court, that's what happens. They can do that because you're already owned by the state anyways. So when you have child, and by the way, you call them children, which by the way is not necessarily bad until you get into what they mean by children, because they mean a child that's rented. Because once again, you signed the child to the state. So it's not your child. They just let you rent what came out your body. Children. That's what they do. So, right? But it's a contract. But you can make a contract to each other based off of your own beliefs. Yeah, and many people have many husbands, and many people have many wives, especially even spiritually, even if you're not physically doing it. Because I was somebody who did not have sex before marriage, but I damn sure watched a bunch of pornography. By the way, what does the word pornography even mean or come from? It comes from a Latin term, or even a Greek term, a Greek term. I think the Latin term is very similar, but it comes from a Greek term, porneia or porneia. Porneia means not adultery, it means fornication. So if you have fornication or adultery, Christ talks about this in Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 through 26, where he's talking about marriage. He says that if you have a false image of marriage, or if you commit adultery, right? That's what porn is. It's a false image of marriage. If you have a false image of marriage, or you're committing adultery, he said that's grounds for divorce. You said, is that why your parents use your name to buy a house? They might have used your name to buy a house because they ain't had no credit. I mean, that's like when people put stuff in other, or maybe they put it in your name because they wanted to go to you. Who knows? You hear what I'm saying? Like this is they don't want you to know who you are. They don't want you, like, this is what two become one. Do you not know that if you have sex with somebody, your DNA lodges into the other person's brain? You think that you can't remember your first because it was the first person you gave your heart to or something. You can't, or I'm sorry, you can't forget your first. You can't forget your first because your DNA was late. And you got to go through a cleansing process, spiritually, especially, to be able to make sure that it doesn't affect you down the road, because you were only meant to become one, not to become one with many, because that means now you got a fraction. See, you got a lot of us got fractions out here. We got a piece of ourselves with this person, a piece with that person, a piece with that person that we was watching in the spirit. So now we got 7,000 people that we done seen on the internet this week. You know what I'm saying? We got so many pieces of us out there. How can we be holy or be whole or be one? And I say this not to judge anybody's salvation, but I'm here to tell you, like the word tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. If we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. Husbands, wives, those who mean to be husbands, wives one day, those who are husbands and wives and will become somebody else's husband or wife, those who are trying to have a relationship with their children, those who are trying to have a relationship with people in the job, those who have people in their business that are under them and you have authority. Hear what I'm saying. Hear this and hear me well. Here's the reason why you have so many fights and you can't even figure out where these fights come from. Is because that you are married to so many different people that you bringing on other stuff. You have so many relationships with other people that you should have never become one with. Spiritually, physically, soul ties, whichever way you want to go. You have so many different relationships out there and pieces of stuff that try to enter into your mind that you are fighting against somebody who has long since been removed, but you're trying to treat somebody like what it is. See, you're talking about the shadow of death. It looks like a shadow of something that happened before. And you're so busy talking about this reminds you of what happened before that you're not realizing that this person that's there now is not even the same person. I'll put my stuff out there because people don't want to be honest sometimes. I'll put myself out there. I know pastors ain't supposed to have no problems, but let me go ahead and be honest. My wife had to help me to heal me in certain ways because I was in a bad relationship with somebody, and it was really bad on a lot of different levels. I was not perfect. And therefore, when you're not perfect and you do some bad things, it's like somebody who's already bad will take some things to some extremes on you, right? And they'll multiply. So I can't be mad at the wife for multiplying what the husband gave her. That's the way that we're created. Right. Nevertheless, though, I had some things that happened, some things that I don't like, some relationship issues, some things I was raised in, whatever. And so now my wife is just doing stuff that she does. But because it reminds me of what came before, I begin to start putting those things that are the shadow, I start putting them on my wife and start saying she must mean this when she does that, because that person I was with a long time ago, when they said that, when they said they love me, they ain't really love me. So when she says she loves me, I take a step back. What you say? Because see, I love you should just mean I love you, but because I've been split in different ways, I'm ready to, you know what I'm saying? Like what you talk about? You love me, right? Like that's what my spirit is. My spirit is. Hold on? What you say? What you know what I'm saying? What you say? What you talk about? Right? But that's what happens because exactly we're dealing with the trauma and we're dealing with trauma because we never dealt with the trauma, or we're dealing with trauma because we never acknowledged the trauma. Number one, acknowledge that you've gone through a traumatic experience. See, for a lot of people, you talk about nostalgia only in a positive sense, but your trauma is nostalgic. You hear what I'm saying? Whoever this is for. I wasn't even planning on going this route, but let's go ahead and when we're getting ready to take our leave soon. Let's take our leave. Let's do the dismount on this. There's somebody out here right now. You're dealing with trauma, right? And I don't even know who I'm talking to. Normally, I wouldn't say this. Don't get in trouble with your job. Don't get in trouble if you're supposed to be somewhere on time. This and that or whatever. But some of you might be trying to rush to something you don't need to get to. Somebody right now, you need to stop and listen. This is for you. Okay, this is for you. You need to hear this. All right. Somebody out here is dealing with trauma and you don't realize your trauma is just as nostalgic as your good times are. Yeah, flesh still seeking that of the flesh. Some of you are nostalgic. See, watch this. Some of you are cussing folk out and saying you're doing so as an Israelite preacher because the cursing of people is something you're nostalgic with because you've grown up in the curse. And so you only know how to speak the language of curse. Come out of that. Oh, somebody didn't even think I didn't know I was going there. Holy Spirit, that's a bar right there. Look, some of you are out here listening to people cursing people out, talking about they're giving the word because these people are still cursed. All they know is curse. So all they can do is curse. But you gotta hang in there. All they know is curse. They don't know anything else but curse. Do you hear where come on? All they know is curse. So they give out curse. All they know is pain. So they give out pain. All they give out is they call me a good for nothing N-word. So they a crack whatever. That's all they know. All they know is being mistreated. So they don't know how to treat you to secure you and give you affection. All they know is that nobody was there for them. So they got to be strong and independent, even though they're in a relationship with you. Right? This is the curse. See, somebody needs to hear this. Your problem is that you don't realize your trauma is nostalgic. My greatness. This wasn't even where we were going. But let's just go ahead. We might have to come back to this tonight. I don't know. Right? We might have to do a special one of these on Kofi _ 40 during the day. I'm gonna try and use the original page more than I've been using it, right? Like, but you need to hear this. Somebody needs to understand, like you are dealing with trauma. And your trauma is nostalgic. Your brain. I'm not talking about your spirit. I'm talking about your brain. Your mind and your brain are two different things. Your mind is spirit. Your brain is physical, right? So my brain is inside my skull. My mind encapsulates my body. Okay? My brain is not the only place where I think, by the way, too. You think with your heart. That's why your heart's not into things. You think with your gut. That's why you say, I'm not feeling it like that. Or I got a gut feeling. That's what you think with your feet. That's why you say, I don't want to walk. I'm not really going to walk in that. Right? You think with your hands. That's why you say, I can't really put my hands on it. Right? You speak with your tongue. That's why you say it's on the tip of my tongue, right? You think with your whole body, but your brain is the physical, your mind is spiritual, right? You got to recognize that your brain, especially your spirit, somewhat, if you're not careful, if you're led by the flesh, your spirit will be affected like this too. But your brain doesn't know the difference between positive and negative. It just knows what you give it, right? Like, do you not know that in all the stuff that's here, I speak out here, and because I speak out here, I just started speaking in this location, but I speak out here, and when I speak out here, do you not know that when I speak out here, everything that hears my voice, everything that I breathe in or breathe out, it breathes into me, right? Do you not know that every time that I speak, that these plants, they actually grow more because I speak out here? They grow whether I speak positive or if I was to cuss y'all out for the rest of this live session, if I was to say things that were just disgusting and despicable, if I were to become a terrible example for the last 15, 20 minutes of this, these plants would still grow, but they would grow with negative energy. They'll still grow. They've done research on this. You can put the most demonic music on, you can put the most thought-provoking, spiritual, serene music on, and either way, the plant will grow, right? It will grow faster than if it hears nothing at all. Right? If it hears nothing at all, it'll still grow, but it'll grow at a certain rate, but it will accelerate just because it hears something or it gets something or something's being sown into it. Even the plants are dealing with spiritual nature, or if you wanted to go there, a certain frequency, right? But they'll still grow. See, and a lot of people, you're growing, but then trying to figure out why you got all these weird side effects, because you'll grow in the nostalgia that is peace, and you'll grow in the nostalgia that's chaos. Did you catch that? You'll grow in the nostalgia that's peace, and you'll grow in the nostalgia that's chaos. And for some of you, you get nostalgic for chaos. See, some of your arguments start because, hey, we haven't had an argument in a long time. So you just start arguing. Your flesh is like, something ain't right. I haven't yelled at somebody. I haven't yelled at my spouse in a long time. I come from family. We just yell at each other. All right, let's get it in. That's all it takes sometimes. For some people, that's all it takes for you is you haven't argued in a long time. So you just go, okay, something in you says, we got to argue. Or people start arguing with you. You shouldn't even argue with them. You know why you argue with them? You argue with them because it's nostalgic. It reminds you of your childhood. So you think that you're trying to run away from trauma. A lot of people don't run away from trauma. A lot of people live in trauma or live through trauma. You think that because you live through trauma, you're supposed to live in trauma, but you're supposed to go through trauma so that you can come out of it. Right? Come on, somebody, with my little jacked up gait and half clothing line is messed up here. Right? Follow me back here real quick. Right? If I'm supposed to go through something, at some point, if I'm supposed to go through something, I should end up on the other side. And when I end up on the other side, I get to close the gate. And if I'd like to, I can repent and turn away from it. Correct? But what happens is a lot of people, they get nostalgic. They look back. They put their hand to the plow, but they look back. They go, man, you know what? I remember being in this place. I remember the arguments. I remember the frustration. I remember the hill. You open the door back up now for the trauma. You step right back in. You get right back into position, and you stand your ground. You should have been. You was out. You're not here anymore because you need to be here. You're here because you're nostalgic. You've been freed from trauma. Oh, that's why somebody need to stay on here. She just said it. That's why somebody need to be on here. Like you've been freed. You outside. Why you keep coming back in? Right? I'm not here to pretend that I can handle all your problems and everything through not talking to you one-on-one. And even if I could talk to you one-on-one, I'm not the most high. I'm not saying I have 100% success rate. Right? I'm not perfect. But I'm telling you, some things are as simple as you already gone. Stop going back. You know how many times, can I be honest with y'all? You know how many times I want to go back to cigarettes? Because a huge chunk of my life from preteen years until even when I was preaching. So, okay, no, I ain't gonna hold y'all. 25 years. I'm 40. Most of my adult life, I breathed in and out using cigarettes. And I was a chain smoker at one point. So that means that my body was used to, right? And really, we're not even addicted to the smoke. We're addicted to the. That's why I've told people, if you want to smoke anything, go get some clothes, or if you want to smoke weed or whatever, you probably should eat those things. But if you feel like you got to smoke something that's healthy, you can even smoke what we were talking about the other day. Oh, wow. Mullen. If you even want to smoke something, smoke mullen. It's great for your lungs, right? If anything, right? Like, or even if you want nicotine, get actual nicotine instead of the stuff that has all the poison in it. If you're going to do that, but breathing in and out, breathing exercises. That's why when people talk about chi, we get into so mystical. Once again, we're not practical. When somebody has great chi, they have great breathing technique. Great breathing technique is something that helps the soul. Matter of fact, look up the definition of soul. And mugwort too, thank you. Yeah, look up the definition of soul, and when you discover what soul is, part of the way they can tell if your soul hasn't left your body. That's why they used to hold the mirror up to your nose. If they saw there was still breath in the mirror, they didn't. Not only did they know you were still breathing, they thought that your soul was still in your body, because to be absent from the body is for the soul and the spirit to become what? Present with the Lord. So when they put the mirror up to the nose, they're not looking just to see are you alive. They're actually seeing where's your soul. See. But you're nostalgic. We're nostalgic for the negative just as much as we're nostalgic for the positive. You can be if you're not careful. All right, Sister Tori. I'm going to try to check in with you today too, right? So you got to recognize. And the reason why, remember, Adam was made out of the dirt, and the spirit was put in him, but Yah had to breathe for him to become a living soul, all three in one. The mem, if you know your Hebrew characters, the mem or the mom, the 13th character, representing the number 14, right? These are things that we have to be aware of. We have to be aware of. We have to recognize, right? So when you hear people talking about chi and all that, they're talking about your breath. So a lot of you could stop, but hear what I'm saying. See, a lot of you go back to, so I'm nostalgic. If I be honest, when I see somebody smoking, when I hear about somebody smoking, sometimes when I watch a movie and somebody smoking, used to be after I would finish having sex, whatever, right? That's something that some smokers do, right? Like when I would finish eating a meal, especially when you were a chain smoker, any chance you had, I would go to the smoke deck. If I was on the ship for a long time, I would make sure that I go to the smoke deck. I would be downstairs practicing my electric guitar. Usually, sometimes it would even take my upright bass out there and just sit out there for hours, plucking away, practicing my stuff. That's my claw, by the way. If you play upright, y'all know about the claw, right? Have my claw and everything together. I'd have my fretless bass, whatever. I'd just be out there for hours and hours and hours and hours, singing and humming to myself and smoking. That was my release. Especially when I was in the barracks and didn't really have access to family and didn't know anybody, stuff like that, right? So I still have this nostalgia If you're not careful, you'll still have you'll be nostalgic for these things. My flesh is still nostalgic for a lot of that. It still wants to go back. So I have to have the flesh in subjection, and I have to say, no, we're not going to do that today. And I got to be careful all the time. And if I do something, I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna have to do a clove. It's gonna have to be real nicotine. It's gonna have to be mullein. It's gonna be something, but I'm not gonna go back because I'm nostalgic for the poison. Not because the poison is righteous, not because it makes me feel great. It feels better to not have a bunch of poison in there. They literally put rat poison in this stuff. I've had to use rat poison before in my life. Ain't no shame in my game. I've had to use rat poison, and I've seen rats, huge rats, whether I was in New York or wherever. I've seen huge rats all over the place die because of that stuff, and you couldn't get rid of them. But that one little piece of poison that was powerful, knock them out. But I was smoking that. Right? It's like when they give your baby some of these shots. Some of these shots, I don't know if they do anymore, but up until recently, at least, like, and when I say recently, at least 5 to 10 years ago, they were giving your baby shots, and they were giving your baby shots that had mercury in it, twice the legal limit that they would give to a dog. They wouldn't give a dog mercury, but they would give your baby a shot with mercury in it. You got to ask yourself, like, what's up with that? That don't make sense. That doesn't seem to be right. That doesn't make sense. But we did those things. We allowed for those things to happen. Right? You hear what I'm saying? Like, they allow for those things to happen. And we allow for those things to happen because, once again, whose prism are we looking through? Who is your source? Who is Abba? Who is your daddy? Who is your father? Who is your source? Who are you going to? Now, watch this. In your family, in your community, in your culture, we say this for sovereignty all the time. You need to become the master. Hello, is it Oka Willie? How you doing? In your culture, you need to become the master. How you doing, servant of Yahweh or Yahweh, right? Or of Yah, excuse me. Right? You need to become the master. One Criminal, how you doing? You need to become the master, the teacher. Why is the school supposed to teach your child about sex, but you don't? And then your child goes and finds out about it, and then you like, how did this happen? Why is it that your churches, that's supposed to be this holy place, don't tell you that sex is marriage, marriage is sex? If your child is learning about marriage or sex anywhere, it should be from you. If that's what y'all say y'all are, is about the word. The Bible talks about sex. You can't tell me that you read the Song of Solomon before and you ain't really recognized that it's talking about sex. It says stuff in there talking about describing her breast, like the mountains, talking about her teeth, the inside of her mouth, talking about her hair. Oh, some of y'all go, well, but that's not really talking about sex. He says, let me eat of your garden. What is the womb? The womb is the garden that you put the seed in, that it might be able to grow into a fruit, right? Or it might be the fruit that allows seed to be able to come out. I mean, what are we talking about? We're afraid to talk about it. This is something I deal with a lot of marital coaching. I'll be trying to talk to people and it becomes very clear. I'm like, I ask sometimes outright. I be like, what's y'all sex life like? Like, y'all having sex and are y'all getting satisfied? I'm just saying. People don't want to go there. But how you gonna be in an adult relationship and y'all didn't even talk, especially because most of you have been married so many times, you've had sex so many times that you're bringing other people's stuff in. See, this is why we got to teach our children to make sure we get this correct, or you might have to purify yourself for a while and fast if you keep going out with this person and that person and y'all keep ending up in the bedroom or you on the rebound or whatever it is. We might need to get you to fast and get yourself back on track to where when you think about sex, you only think about it through the prism of this one person. You might need to gentrify yourself with holiness, because you go into the bedroom and you so busy talking about, well, when I was with so and so, when I was when Mike, he did it like this. I would go a little deeper into it, but we have people of different age. But Mike did this position like this, and I never done this with anybody except Paul, but Paul know how to get me ready for that. And when I was with James, James, he was whisper sweet nothings in my ear. And when I was with you know, when I was with Demetrius used to make sure he nibbled on the back of my ear when he did blah blah. And so you start teaching your partner about everybody else you've been married to, and you ain't. Is that too much? That might be. I don't know. I feel like I'm on point, right? I feel like I'm, because some of y'all don't get, like, that's what's going on. You were not supposed to be one with many. You were not supposed to have fractions. You were supposed to be one with one. You were supposed to be 1 over 1. 1 over 1 is 1. 2 over 1 is more than 1. 3 over 1 is more than 1. 10 over 1 is more than 1. Brothers, you weren't supposed to have multiple notches in your belt. You're supposed to have one. I know I'm dipping the toe in this stuff that supposedly is supposed to be too holy to be able to get into, but that's why you had a problem when it's time to get into it, because you're too holy to get into, and you stay into divided rather than making sure that you're one holy, right? That's why the bedroom is undefiled. Problem is your bedroom is defiled because not just physically is the bedroom supposed to be undefiled, so that two become one, but your spirituality is supposed to be undefiled. Hey, how you doing, Kayla? Your spirituality is supposed to be undefiled. You hear what I'm saying? Your spirit man should be undefiled. Right? We got brothers out here talking about, I don't have time for relationships, I'm gonna go ahead and make money, but they having 20 children. How don't you have time for a relationship and you got 20 children? I ain't say, and I'm not being facetious. I mean, well, maybe I'm being a little facetious, but Lil Wayne, I don't know how many children he got, but he ain't got 5. At Country Wayne, comedian, I don't know how many he got, but he ain't got 5. And we sitting up there applauding them. Well, they take care of their babies. Wouldn't it be great if their babies had one mother and one father? Wouldn't it be great? They could have 20 if they want, but why not have one mother and one father? You said, who would I go live with on the platform? I don't know. If you say it, is that a way of saying you want to come on live? Or I don't know. If I know the person, if we talk about it or whatever, I don't just let random people come on if I don't know you. If you could tell me a little bit about yourself, I don't know if that's what the question was, though. But I'm willing to talk to anybody if it's going to be like honest conversation. We're going to treat each other like human beings that respect each other. And like I said, I have different people at different ages. So if somebody's, going to come on, if they're going to curse or whatever, they got to be limited, because I'm not going to have, some of the babies that be watching. And yes, I know TikTok is not supposed to be for little babies, but y'all know children be watching this stuff. And I make sure that this platform is used for them. You said, do widows fall under the same guidelines as far as what? As far as abstinence? I mean, a widow should be abstinent until she's married again. She can be remarried at some point. Matter of fact, in our culture, we ain't ready for this and we think this is gross. But in our culture, if you have, let's say you have like 5 brothers and the oldest brother's married and he dies, if the second oldest is not married or whatever, let's say the second oldest is married, but the third oldest isn't married, he's supposed to take on the wife, because the wife is part of the family now. But see, in our culture, we don't get married we don't date. So a lot of people, your whole context of, and I'm not saying you in particular, but a lot of people's context of marriage is usually coming from a very Eurocentric or very romanticized. The word romantic, by the way, just means Roman antics, right? Doesn't mean right or wrong. It just means what Roman people do, right? Like you think that candlelit dinners are romantic, not realizing that a lot of poor Romans could not see what they ate in the dark. So if you had a candle, that was very romantic, right? If you could see a little bit in the dark, right, but you can see what you were eating, it's very nice to see what you can eat. I prefer to always see what I can eat, no matter what time of day it is. But, back then, if you were living in a lot of their apartments, were caves, right? But in our culture, when you look at marriage, we look at it different. We're not marrying always because of like, because there's going to be periods of times that I don't like myself. I still have to love my wife, right? There might be periods of time where my wife and I don't necessarily get along, and I don't like her the way that I'm supposed to, but I will love her. So for me, marriage is a different reality. I get what people are doing because of marital coaching that I do. I get what people are doing because I have a lot of people in my family who have decided to subscribe to that that notion of what marriage is. But in my culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. You should be pre-qualified as a husband or wife already. And so, I don't even have a problem. Like my wife and I've talked about this many times. We don't know if we're going to do it, but my son might be in an arranged marriage, so that we know, you know, how to make sure he's prepared for his wife from a young age. And arranged marriages last longer than everybody else's marriages. In the United States of America, divorce rate is anywhere between 51% to 75, depending on who you talk to or where you are. So if 3 out of 4 marriages ain't even working, and y'all say that y'all need to date each other and then the parents need to agree with whoever you date, and it's getting 75%, I'd rather just go with the one that I know be up in, like, if you're in places where 7% divorce rate is in arranged marriage places, they consider that to be terrible. So that's almost 10%, or that's almost 100%, increase. So I'd rather just, you know, I'd rather just go ahead and deal with what's righteous. So, we don't know for sure, but even his friends, every little girl that comes across or whatever, and they start talking, and little girls sometimes want to play house and do stuff like that. I be watching what they do, and so does his mother. And we make it a point to say, son, that is not what we do. You don't talk to a woman like that. If even if you're playing, we don't play like that. Like, address her as a queen, address her as a princess. You're a king. You're going to be a husband one day. But we're just, no, you're not just. And people say that's being rough on a child. No, it's teaching the child righteousness. Somebody got to teach him. That's why he didn't go to school, because schools will tell you all this stuff, and they'll tell you about sex. Not one time will they tell you about marriage. Not one time will they teach you about business. Not one time will they tell you about being sovereign. Not one time will they tell you money's not real. But they'll get you ready to have a job for somebody else and get debt for at least 4 years of college. So I would never have my child, his oldest, and even the older ones, technically, the 2 oldest out of the 5 that I have, the 2 oldest boys, one pretty much went to school his whole life. The other one, last year, started doing homeschooling. The 3rd oldest, she's been doing homeschooling for a little while now. And the second to youngest, she's pretty much been doing homeschooling outside of her first 3 years of school, her first 3 grade years. But Solomon, he's never stepped foot in the classroom. Never will. Never will. Because they're not teaching them. By the way, even if you look at the best school systems in the world, right? Once again, you got to look at whose prism you're going through. Even if we want to look through school systems, look at the best school systems in the world. Guess what you're going to discover? When you look at the best school systems in the world, you'll discover that they don't give homework assignments, and they don't they don't require all the time that the child has to come to school every day. And when the child does come to school, they might do 1 to 2 hours max of actual schoolwork, and that's it. Because your child, like, for example, if you go to the gym, some of you do this, right? But if you go to the gym, you finish your workout at the gym, right? You finish your workout. When you finish your workout at the gym, what do you do after that? When you finish your workout at the gym, do you go home and then start making sure that you do push-ups, sit-ups, Pilates, and all that? And then right? Or when you finish, like, let's say you had a great 2-hour workout. Do you go home immediately and start working out again? You release, you rest until it's time to work out again. Why would you do that to your muscles? Your muscles need to rest, right? You need to give them some resistance, and then they need to get some rest. All right. Now, what about your brain? Your brain working like a muscle. Should I keep attacking your brain nonstop? Like, your brain will get stronger, sure, but wouldn't it be stronger if it had a chance to rest and recuperate? How you doing, Clarence? Wouldn't it get stronger if you had a chance to rest and recuperate some? Now we gotta ask us if the system is sus. That's simple, right? That's pretty simplified. That just makes sense. That's plain as the nose on your face. Right? Like, why would you not want the mind to rest? So my son is out here, he plays, my son's tall. I'm 6'5.5". My son, is going on 8 years old next month. The way he would say it, he's in his 7s going into his 8s, like I'm in my 40s, so he wants to say he's in his 7s. But regardless, right, he's really tall for his age, so he plays with older children a lot. When he plays with children his age, he likes it, but he could be rough by accident. right? He does kung fu with children that are bigger and taller and stronger and faster than him. So it actually works, for us. Like when you have people that are taller, you end up like kind of being around people that are older by default. But in all that stuff or whatever, I noticed that he does stuff better than the 10, 11-year-olds sometimes. Knows his multiplication table better. Now, sometimes it's because they need to do their work. For real, for real. I'm not gonna act like it should be that way, but a lot of times, and he's more focused. And when they're talking about doing stuff, like if we go to some of the rough places, the rough patches that we go to in different places when we travel, and some of these children are start saying rough things towards him, he's like, man, we need to pray. Like he doesn't think the same. They'll say we need to do this. He says, man, you need Christ. Like he'll talk to him like that. You know why? Because he's not in the culture, and they'll look at him strange, even though they might go to church and everything and all that stuff. He doesn't have to go to a church building to have Christ in him, to have Yahshua HaMashiach or Yahshua HaMashiach in him. He doesn't have to, right? And so they might go to a church building, but when they go to the church building, their friends that go to the church building spend more time in the world anyways. So they bring that mindset with them to church, and with the church, even if the church is trying to be righteous, in their mind, it's not cool because I'm in something that's cool more hours, right? They have a job. I know you don't think of school that way, but they go to their job, they go to their school at least 8 hours a day and do overtime, right? They got to be in this after school activity and this one and this one. Then they got to do homework and bring their work home with them and stuff. They do more work than some of y'all do. And then you be asking your children, why don't you like school? Who would like to be in a cubicle all day and then have to bring the cubicle home with them? And then have their family be upset with them when they don't want to do cubicle work. You got them doing low grade clerical work, and then asking them why they don't like it. It don't make sense. Of course they don't like it. Why would they like that? Were they created to do that? You remember when you were in school and you were allowed to actually like want to follow your dream, and then one day somebody made it apparent you will not do that? You remember that? You remember like you wanted to be a fireman, doctor, president, beautician, dancer, singer, right? And then somebody came to you one day and said, you can't do that. That's why y'all like, for real, it's nostalgic. Once again, remember I was talking about your trauma is nostalgic? We'll get ready to take our lead. Your nostalgia, your trauma is nostalgia, right? Because really, when you watch that dancer that you love so much, in your mind, you're like, man, I wanted to be that one day. Yeah, I wanted to be a poet too. Well, I don't know if I wanted to be a poet, but I like to rhyme. I like rhyme scheme. Right? I guess you could say that's poetry. But see, that's what you do. Why is it that you watch some of the television show, even if you know you should be watching them? Why do you watch some of that stuff? Man, because even if I'm not supposed to be watching the show, I wish I could have been acting like that person. You watch certain speakers. Some of you watch speakers all day long, and you know a lot of them that you watch, they're not even righteous in what they speak on and what they preach. But you just like, man, I wish I could be able to have the ability and the freedom to be able to orate the way that they do. Yeah, exactly. Right. Your children, you shouldn't take work home while your children taking work home. You see what I'm saying? So you got to get to this place where you realize. I'm sorry, you said when your oldest child used to write left to right, the school called to evaluate, you told she's okay, leave her alone. Yeah. And by the way, right to left is how you write in Hebrew, anyways. Right to left, right to left. That's how you write in Chinese. Actually, you would write in Chinese not only right to left, but you would write right to left, or you would write right to left, and then you right to left, and then you would write what up and down, or down, up and up. I'm sorry, you would write down, go right down, go right down. In Greek, you would write right to left. See, we live in a reverse world. Once again, the system is sus. And who is your source? If your source writes backwards, if your source speaks backwards, if your source lives backwards, you got to ask yourself, should they be your source? If your people keep moving backwards, 1865, that's supposed to be the end of that was supposed to be the end of your frustration as a people. 1865, less than 0.5%, less than 0.5%, that's half a percent, less than 0.5% of America's wealth was in the hands of black people. It's now 2023, and less than 0.5% of America's wealth is in the hands of black people. Now, Albert Einstein, who people love to be able to talk about his genius, even though they didn't like him when he was young either. But okay, y'all like what he says. Well, didn't he say that to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is the very definition of insanity? I'm sorry, Maestro. I don't know what that had to do with what we were saying. You were saying your God can't be visible, so he's invisible. I don't know what that's. What was that to? I apologize. And if that's your way and say hello, how you doing? Because I don't worship God anyways. God's not the same as Elohim. He's not the same as Al. He's not the same as El. He's not. God is not the same as or Eureka. God is not the same as a Netjer, right? So which culture are you talking about that you're trying to box that into, if that's what you're doing? But I'm not sure. I don't want to just guess or assume. Seems like you might have made an assumption yourself, though. You know. But once again, you got to realize this system is sus, right? When who you are is more, I'm sorry, when what you are is more important than who you are, or sorry, when where you are is more important than who you are, we got to figure out what's going on. And what was our theme for today as we get ready to take our leave? Our theme for today, and all this is always done for this is for educational purposes only, right? But our theme was, who is your source? Who is your source? Here's something that's going to blow your mind. Some of you, it'll blow your mind. Some of you just be like, I operate in that kind of sort. I need to operate in it more. Some of you will be like, yeah, you know what? I think I know that. I just don't. I just, I just don't say it. Um, you get to be a source, right? Did you know that? This last thing for today, I'm getting ready to take my leave. I want to leave this on somebody. You get to be a source, right? Now, you're not the source of everything, right? You're not the source of the earth. Hear what I'm saying? You get to be a source. When you know your culture enough, you get to speak on it. And then that's when you have the right to be able to say, you can't speak on that because that's not your culture. And not only is it not your culture, you don't know how my culture works. I wouldn't mind you talking about my culture if you were actually representing it correctly. But you can only do that when you become the source. When I go to West Africa, I'm considered, excuse me, told you I had no water, praise God. It must be time for me to end. My throat and everything's dry, parched. But excuse me. When I go back to West Africa, I am considered to be Jelly Griot. That means I'm a historian. That means I'm supposed to tell the story of my people musically. I should be able to tell you what's going on through art, through dance, through written documentation, through verbal storytelling, through generations, through different tribes. I should be able to tell you the history of our people, specifically my tribe, but also others as well. And they say in our culture, if a jelly dies, and I had to be willing to do this because there's a lot of pressure, but they tell you when a jelly dies, it's akin to a library being burned down. Like that's how much some of you have a call in your life where you're supposed to be a library. Like you're supposed to have a wealth of knowledge. You should be the source. People mourn the Alexandrian library being burnt down. How many libraries have been burned down? How many human libraries have been burned down? How many human libraries have been hung? How many human libraries have given up on themselves? How many human libraries gave up on their own lives because they didn't see any value in the library? You are an encyclopedia, bare minimum. A library should be filled with at least a few encyclopedias, but you're an encyclopedia. You have a wealth of knowledge. A lot of people don't even see the value in what they bring. They'll be using, isn't it amazing how many of these people who end up self-deleting in some way, shape, or form, and everybody loved them. Everybody felt uplifted by them, but they didn't feel uplifted by themselves. It means that there are other people that usually value what you have more than you. That's why you have to remember you are a tree that's planted by the rivers of water. Then the season will give much fruit. And the fruit that you give is designed what? So that the seed inside the fruit might be able to continue. You're powerful. You're powerful, right? This is why we have to keep studying. Show yourselves approved. And that's why I invite you to do everything we talked about today. Study to show yourself approved, that you can be a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Pray about it to make sure that you can see if it's correct. Study it. And once you study, pray about it, you see that it's correct. Then start making sure that you're not just hearers of it. Now, here's the important part. Do something with it. Don't just hear it. Don't just say amen and then walk back into the same debt, walking back into the same communities that don't care. Go back to the same polls and vote for people that ain't going to do something for you. Start focusing your stuff on your diaspora, on your people, on your culture. It's okay to do that. Everybody should be able to support their own culture, and everybody should respect other cultures. I don't disrespect anybody else's culture. That means that I can't disrespect mine in order to respect yours, just like you shouldn't disrespect yours to respect mine. You see that? So this is what we're dealing with, right? But thank y'all for being on. I appreciate you. I'm gonna go ahead and take my leave. Patreon family, we should see you later. I will try. I don't know if there's a time I'll do it or not. I will try at some point, probably sooner than later. I'll try at some point to come on Kofi_40 for a quick live. Try to make sure that since we've got some build up on there, that we make sure that we're not leaving people hanging who are on there. So if you happen to be around, it'll be real quick in comparison to these lives. We'll be on Patreon 7 p.m. Eastern New York time. We'll be on live session on Kofi_42 at like 7:45ish p.m. Eastern New York time. We'll have class tonight, cryptocurrency 8:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. We'll have Hebrew characters 9:15 p.m. Eastern New York time. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. I'm gonna try and get in touch with some of you. I know we've been missing each other on calls and stuff. Also, to those who've been asking about the Trello app, please download it. Please, if you haven't downloaded it yet, and then also make sure that you get your make sure you send me your Trello name, or if you can't do that, let's look for the links that we've been sending out so we can start putting you on certain boards so you guys can be able to see what's going on there, and we can start making sure that we attend the stuff. Don't forget September 29th through October the 6th is coming up still. By this evening, if it's not by this evening, by tomorrow, we will be we'll have a whole page on the website that'll just be dealing with that information. So if you want more information on that, we'll have some of it on our shout out. If you've never been on TikTok with us before for the shout out, just stick around. When the music starts to play, you'll be able to start seeing some ways you can get in contact with us if you like to see some of the stuff we do outside of just the live sessions. We are a community worldwide, and we try to make sure that we're there for each other too. And we're committed to helping each other out, growing together, and helping our families to grow, making sure land is in place, all these different things that we have the ability to do. We want to make sure that we put this stuff in action with immediacy and with a lot of structure as soon as we can, and with a lot of fervor. So we thank everybody for being on again. I appreciate you. As always, please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And thank you all for being on. That's all I have for today. I won't be on tomorrow on the Rising, or tomorrow in the evening. Tomorrow in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, it'll be Minister Tamara on her page. You can check her out at Tamara_Yah9. That's TAMARA_YAH, the number 9. And then tomorrow, for our Wednesday session, what's today? May 16th. So on May 17th, tomorrow in the Rising. So it'll be her day tomorrow. Tomorrow in the Rising at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. It'll be Minister Tamara. Tomorrow in the evening at 8 p.m. New York time. I admit we lost TikTok. Sorry, y'all. I'm gonna repeat a little bit. Just a second. We're almost done. Okay, sorry, TikTok. So Minister Tamara will be at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time on YouTube, and then tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, she will be on her own channel. Once again, that's Tamara_Yah9, TAMARA_YAH, the number 9. So we thank you guys. We appreciate you. We'll put some stuff up here. We've been putting if you haven't gotten the newsletter, we've been putting the newsletter up here pretty much for the most of the month. So if you want to just look at some of this stuff, but once again, we'll have our information up. So if you're in the chat on TikTok, just stick around for a few seconds more after we do this little dismissal, and then you'll be able to see how this works. And if you want to get in contact with us or want to learn more about how we roll, we'll make it easy for you to get in contact with us, and we'll take it from there. And hopefully somebody in your area will be able to help you out with whatever we can do. All right. But thank you to everybody. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, just that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Peace. All right. For those of you who are still on TikTok with us. This is how the shout out works.